in Gaza. There are also restrictions on solar panels, generators and fuel, so electricity and laptops in Gaza can now cost 10 times what they did before the war. And actually fixing a laptop, well...
Getting spare parts from outside is now almost impossible. Today, repairing relies entirely on devices already inside the country. If one laptop has a faulty motherboard, we take its screen, casing, and other usable parts. If another laptop has a broken screen, we use its motherboard. That is how repairs are done now, transferring parts from one device to another.
Mahran leaves disappointed, picking his way through the market.
Why I need to work on a broken Mac device and I cannot have a new device? We need electricity, we need water. Electricity is the main part of our life. We cannot drink water without electricity. We need solar panels. We need car batteries because we use the batteries to stand with solar panels. We need fuel for generators. We need oils. So it's very hard for us. And I hope like in the future, like we have the same internet connection that Elon Musk have here in Gaza. And I hope that we have a way to get devices to work on here in Gaza.
Mahran's still looking for a full-time job.
I'm one of the 2 million here in Gaza, and I think there is a lot of people that has a harder time than me. I lost my job, I lost my equipments, I lost my home. This is God test to me. Other people, they lost their whole family, they lost a lot of people, so it's hard. And I think my test, thanks to God, is still like in money and work, and this is something that we can work about it. This test is very hard for us, but we are trying to survive. We are trying to say thanks God for what we can do, and we start our life again.
There are many obstacles, and with the ceasefire stalling, Gaza's wider recovery remains at a standstill. But still, Gazan tech workers give a glimpse of a brighter, possible future. As for Wala, she is now earning money with her laptop. She's recently landed a full-time job as a software engineer with a Dubai-based company.
My first hope to help my family to get a good life, to help my sister to get out from Gaza to find a treatment. And also I'm working for myself to get my scholarship to travel and also to help my people. So yeah, this is right now my main goal. I'm still working on it, and I hope that I can achieve it.
That's Assignment. I'm Yolande Nell, and the producer's John Murphy.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg in our Studio 15 on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on that app and on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. It is in Winnipeg going to be a mix of sun and cloud for today, becoming cloudy this afternoon, 60% chance of showers late in the day, risk of a thunderstorm, which we didn't really see yesterday, but we'll see what happens today. It's going to be windy as well and a high of 28, so kind of have everything today. With Humidex going to feel like 31, so that's Winnipeg. Let's say good morning to our team today. Corey Funk is here directing the show, and we'll be covering your commute. Mr. Abby Adiemi, thank you, Abby, running in my scripts last minute. I'm a little late today. Late to get started. Abby Adiemi is going to be on the air covering the weather for us throughout the show. And then good morning to Darren Marash, who's over there covering our YouTube stream. If you're watching live, please say hello. Well, the morning show is on until 8:37. Throughout the program, we're joined live by Heather Wells, who is with our news team, and she's here with our headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, it was the big news yesterday, and an infectious diseases expert says an expansion of Winnipeg's National Microbiology Lab is the right move. The federal government announcing a $10.2 million contract for design and engineering work on a new medical countermeasures lab that will go next to the National Microbiology Lab. Toronto General Hospital Dr. Isaac Bogosh says this shows Ottawa has learned something from the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll hear more reaction coming up. And a Churchill Lodge owner has launched 2 more legal challenges to the province's decision preventing him from doing polar bear tours. Wally Dowdrett says the NDP government is singling him out because he was a longtime PC member who ran for the party's leadership. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, I mentioned Winnipeg's weather today. A Brandon similar mix of sun and cloud. Chance of showers late today. Windy, high of 30 as some heat returns. In Thompson today, a 60% chance of showers. Also, risk of a thunderstorm this afternoon, but much cooler, a high of 17. In the first hour of the show, we're going to take it back to Folklorama. We'll find out why it feels like Christmas at the Scandinavian Pavilion. Also, Mark Carney wants Canadian diplomats abroad to become champions of trade diversification, but are they the right group for the job? Stay tuned for that as well.
Today on Q.
These days, Canada is known for producing internationally recognized R&B talent like The Weeknd, Daniel Caesar, Justin Bieber. But before all of them, there was Glenn Lewis. He fought to pave the way for Canadian R&B, and he's here to tell you his story.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Anis Haidari. Human-caused climate change is doubling the likelihood of Canadian wildfires, says a new report out today. It's examining the conditions that contributed to last month's fires in Ontario and the Northwest Territories. As the CBC's Anand Ram tells us, the World Weather Attribution's findings indicate this is not just a Canadian problem.
Seriously, we're encased in flames now.
Caught in a terrifying pincer grip of a wildfire.
Yeah. Oh yeah, look over there.
It's easy to say how unprecedented this feels, but scenes like this, shot by CN rail workers surrounded by flames in northern Ontario last month, add to the precedent of a world where this is happening more and more.
It's a huge pressure on their organization, needing lots of resources.
Jonathan Boucher is a researcher with Natural Resources Canada and a co-author of a new rapid analysis that says human-caused climate change made conditions twice as likely for July's intense fires to burn in Ontario and the Northwest Territories.
They burned area at a really rapid rate, so only within a few days and weeks, large areas have been burned.
The study also estimated Ontario could see this as often as every 6 years, compared to every 40 in a world without our excess greenhouse gas emissions.
2026 is yet another active year, so 4 in a row.
Mike Flanagan is a fire weather expert at Thompson Rivers University in Kamloops, BC.
As we warm, the atmosphere's ability to suck moisture of dead fuels increases rapidly. And unless we see more rain, our fuels are going to be drier.
And with millions in the path of the wildfire's smoke, experts say it's not a local problem. Friederike Otto is a study co-author with Imperial College London.
If you care about anyone but the super rich, you have to stop burning fossil fuels.
A stark reminder with months left in Canada's fire season. Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
112 fires are burning across British Columbia, and the toll of the Bradley Creek wildfire near Vernon continues to build. The BC Wildfire Service says the fire has grown to over 2,800 hectares. As Tiffany Goodwin reports, some people in the community had mere moments to evacuate their homes as flames quickly consumed them.
It's okay, Jim, go! You lead the way, buddy, come on!
A last-ditch effort to save a group of horses after flames from the Bradley Creek wildfire encroached closer and closer.
It's the worst nightmare. You never want to turn your animals loose and just pray that they make it, and they had to do that.
Devin McMillan's family had just 5 minutes to pick up and leave, the wind growing stronger.
The fire was on their heels. It had went from the bottom and came up our hill, and it came from the top over the mountain.
The Okanagan Indian Band says more than 200 homes were destroyed. Chief Dan Wilson got a tour of the destruction earlier this week.
I didn't recognize my own community. It looked like a war zone. It was really heartbreaking because there were some structures there that I've seen all my life.
Devin McMillan lost her house along with a trailer, shop, and logging truck, but remarkably, all of their horses survived.
They're such smart animals. They knew they'd be safe in the arena. They ran back into the arena and they all hunkered down there.
The family thought they lost their pig after her pen burned to the ground, but against all odds, Jellybean made it out safe. The family finding those moments of gratitude despite everything they lost. Tiffany Goodwin, CBC News, Penticton, British Columbia.
A brutal heat wave is tightening its grip on Italy, with Rome under its highest health alert as temperatures push towards 40 degrees. As Megan Williams reports, even the Vatican has had to adapt, moving the Pope's weekly audience indoors to escape the heat.
Outside St. Peter's Basilica, tourists and pilgrims line up under a punishing sun, fanning themselves and clutching bottles of water. Some learning at the last minute the Pope's audience has been moved indoors. It makes sense with this unbearable heat and humidity, said this man from Mexico. The high temperatures in some areas nearing 40 degrees Celsius are part of Italy's fourth heat wave of the summer. Today, all 27 cities monitored by the health ministry, from Trieste in the north to Palermo in the south, are under red alert. That's the highest level, signaling a health risk to the entire population, not only the elderly and people with medical conditions. The heat has been linked to 4 recent deaths. It is also worsening drought in the Po Valley, where more than 100 towns are struggling with water supplies. Rome is offering free access to air-conditioned cinemas and cultural venues, and extending evening hours at landmarks, including the Colosseum and Pantheon. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
Today, a Republican-led committee at the U.S. Senate will decide whether Dr. Anthony Fauci should be held in contempt of Congress. He was a leading health official for the United States during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some Republican senators have accused Fauci of misleading Congress over the origins of the coronavirus. He would not answer some questions during a tense Senate hearing last week.
Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
At the hearing, Fauci accused Republican Committee Chairman Rand Paul of having a vendetta against him.
The sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars.
Senators will vote today on whether Fauci had a valid constitutional right against self-incrimination when he refused to answer questions last week. Fauci received a presidential pardon at the end of Joe Biden's term, and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul argues that pardon means Fauci is ineligible to plead the Fifth Amendment. Iran says it is close to reaching a deal with Oman. The two countries are negotiating new shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz. Reports suggest under this deal, ships will enter the Persian Gulf through Iranian waters and leave through Omani waters. Iran's foreign ministry did not say whether tolls were part of this agreement, which the country had previously demanded. The ministry said this agreement does not guarantee security of the ships going through the waterway. Despite a possible agreement, international oil prices are holding relatively steady, which could be a sign commodities markets are not yet confident in a deal. A powerful El Niño is developing, and the United Nations is warning the weather pattern could push tens of millions of people into acute hunger. As the CBC's Talia Sarv reports, the agency is calling for urgent action before it's too late.
Peruvians applaud their president Keiko Fujimori as she climbs into an excavator to mark the start of emergency works this week aimed at mitigating the impact of the upcoming El Niño.
Entonces el reto es muy grande.
The challenge is a huge one, she says, and we have little time.
We have an event we haven't seen, most of us haven't seen in our lifetimes.
Jean-Martin Bauer is the director of food security analysis at the World Food Programme. He says the strengthening weather system has authorities on alert. A new UN report reveals 49 million people could be pushed into acute hunger by the event before the end of next year. Central America and Southern Africa are expected to be hit hardest at a time global food security is already low due to world conflicts and climate shocks. The UN is boosting efforts in a handful of vulnerable countries to minimise the system's impacts. Canada won't be spared the El Niño's effects with the warmer winter forecast. Talia Saab, CBC News, Toronto.
In Calgary, a somber vigil honoring the life of a boy who went missing and never made it home.
A whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew.
A choir sings outside Calgary City Hall last night for Parker. The 11-year-old boy with autism vanished in July. His body was found last Wednesday inside a vast network of pipes. Katie McClellan is the Calgary police chief. She spoke at the rally.
Over the past few weeks, Parker's name became known across our city, our country, and beyond. People who have never met him looked for him. They shared his photo. They checked their yards and their garages. They followed every update. They hoped alongside his family.
The vigil was a chance for volunteers, police, and the community to grieve. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. A look at one of our most read stories on cbcnews.ca, Canadian workers speaking out against their employers monitoring them at work. I'm Anis Haidari. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Information Radio. This is CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM. You might be listening on the app or YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining all of us on our CBC team. I see Abby and Corey and Darren and Heather Wells in our news center. We're going to talk to her in just a moment. We're live in Studio 15, as I mentioned, in downtown Winnipeg. Well, this hour on the show, have you been out to Folklorama yet? We may be in the midst of a hot summer, but one Folklorama pavilion is saying, let it snow. We're going to talk to the coordinator of the Scandinavian Pavilion about their Christmas theme for this year's Folklorama Festival, so we'll hear more about that. Also, Mark Carney wants Canadian diplomats abroad to become champions of trade diversification, but are they the right group for the job? We're going to have that conversation this hour. And no doubt you've been following national and international news, what's been happening over Ukraine. Russia is ramping up its war. We will get to the latest coming up before 7 o'clock. So that'll build on some of what you might have just heard on World Report. Right now, speaking of Heather Wells, she is in with our local headlines from Manitoba. Good morning.
Well, tenants in a West Broadway apartment complex could see their rents increase by hundreds of dollars later this year. The owner of 303 Furby wants to hike rent by 78%. The company says it needs to recover costs from significant renovations to common areas. We'll hear from one tenant coming up. And the province is ordering a Southeast Manitoba school board to respect the legal rights of students over the age of 16. Back in June, you may recall, the Hanover School Division passed a motion directing staff not to honor the rights granted to mature minors. That meant they couldn't access health care without knowledge of their parents or guardians. Well, Education Minister Tracy Schmidt says that would violate Manitoba law as well as the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Those stories and more coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather Wells.
Thank you.
So Heather's with us live throughout the morning. Abby Adiemi is as well here to talk about the weather. Good morning, Abby.
Yeah, good morning, Marcy. Similar to yesterday, we're starting with more like a cool start. We're still seeing temperatures way below the teens in some regions in the southern parts of the province. We will see the sun make its appearance, then a mix of sun and clouds. There's a chance of showers across the regions today. Northern Manitoba really staying cool with more clouds and even scattered rain in that part of the province. We see rain falling in the Thompson area as we speak right now. For the Red River Valley region, Winnipeg is starting the day. We're seeing 15 in some areas, 17 in some areas in the city. We will see mainly clear skies to start. Expect a mix of sun and clouds today. We do have a good chance of showers and possible thunderstorms late this afternoon before we reach a high of 28, though with the humidity factored in, it will be feeling close to 31 21 degrees. So it's going to be more like a humid and partially muggy day for folks out there. 9 to 16s, that's what we're seeing across the south. And if you look up north, we're seeing 12 to 13 under mostly cloudy skies. Rain already expected in that area. Thompson saying rain at this time, and we'll see highs in the 16s and the 18s. We are still dealing with those shallow fogs in the Churchill area since Monday. But right now, Winnipeg, we are climbing to 28 as we speak.
You know, it didn't feel that hot to me yesterday, but Corey got the kids out to the splash pad. Is that right?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. But you know, it's funny. There wasn't actually a lot of people there either. We had the whole thing to ourselves. So,
I love when
don't
that
know,
happens.
I don't know if we're like in the late summer, sort of like the novelty's worn off, and if it's just like a little bit cloudy, everyone's like, no, we're not going to splash pad.
I don't know. It was cool in the morning. Maybe people just didn't expect it, but when the sun was out, it sure was nice. What time were you there?
We were there afternoon, like 4:30. Yeah.
I could have guessed that because you were at work in the morning.
They're gone for the day for you. They just had to leave the pool for you.
Exactly.
Maybe the people came and they came early and they already.
Yeah, that's probably.
They saw you coming.
Exactly.
Like, there's Corey. We better clear out. You know how he is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's super fun. There'll be some more days of that as well, as Abby mentioned, some more warm weather coming. The commute this morning, anything to mention?
No, I haven't heard of any major issues out there yet. But if you are walking, you're biking, you're driving, you can always give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Yep. You're hearing right. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Well, it might be a little early for that. But as we've been mentioning, in Winnipeg right now, you can fill your cup if you love the holidays with some good Christmas cheer, because the Scandinavian Pavilion over at Folklorama is celebrating 55 years at the festival, and they've decided to showcase Christmas traditions this year from Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden. Joanne Gaiman is the coordinator of the Scandinavian Pavilion, and she spoke with CBC guest host Julie Buckingham about it yesterday.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yours is only one of 3 pavilions that have been part of Folklorama for the entire 55-year history. How special is that for you and your group?
It is very special for us. We've worked together for many years, and to be one of 3 pavilions, it's just a very big, big pleasure for all of us.
How has your organization managed to facilitate all of that work for all of these years?
Well, I think what it is, the volunteers, it's like a milestone celebrating generations of community members who help keep the Nordic traditions alive. And with 5 distinct cultures coming together, we have many multi-generational families that participate, for many of whom have participated for more than 30 plus years. And we just keep getting stronger and stronger as the years go by.
It's super cool. And as I mentioned, your pavilion is having a Christmas celebration in the middle of summer. Why did you want to do that?
Well, the Christmas tradition is a highlight of all 5 Nordic countries. And what better way to celebrate 55 years than Christmas traditions?
Okay, that sounds super fun. It sounds like a real present or a real gift to people. How are you getting them into the Christmas spirit at the pavilion?
Well, when you enter our pavilion, you'll see Christmas trees walking in. When you come into our pavilion, there's twinkling lights, there's trees, there's Santa Claus walking around. Our menu, dessert, main menu, is Christmas related. Upstairs in our club rooms for each of the 5 countries, they will be talking about their Nordic Christmas traditions as our guests visit.
All right. We know Winnipeg is filled with people who love food. So can you describe some of the traditional Christmas foods you're serving?
Yes. The most traditional Christmas dinner in all of the Nordic countries would be the roast pork stuffed with prunes and apricots. And that is served with mashed potatoes, the red cabbage, and carrots.
That sounds delicious. And then there has to be sweet treats, I'm sure.
Oh, of course. Scandinavians, we do love our Christmas and dessert treats. So what we're having as a special, we have a Christmas cookie plate sampler. And in that sampler, the guests will be able to taste 1 cookie from each country. So for Finland, we are doing our pinwheel cookies. Danish is the shortbread cookie topped with the roasted almonds. Iceland is our Wienertorta cookie. Norway, you'll have a marzipan cookie. And in Sweden, you taste of the gingerbread cookie.
Sounds amazing. And how has it all been going so far? Only been open a few days, but what's the reaction been like?
The reaction is wonderful. The guests come in. They love our show. We have many compliments from guests, from Folklorama staff, that you come in there and you think, Christmas in August. Wow, this is amazing. So, yeah, we hope that everyone comes down, visits us, get in the Christmas spirit in the month of August.
What, besides the food, because that's what we all love to do, is we love the performances as well. So what can people expect to see at the Scandinavian Pavilion when it comes to the performances?
They will be entertained by our young folk dancers. They will start off our entertainment, followed by the teenagers, and followed by our adult dance group. And they will be dancing traditional folk dances. And there's a little bit of a play put in the middle of a Christmas cat and Christmas traditions. But you have to come down to hear the whole story and see the whole entertainment. And to end the entertainment part of it, we do our a very cherished tradition with the pavilion. It's a song called "So Take My Hand." It gets the guests joined with our dancers, and it's just a little reminder of the connections to the community that keeps the pavilion going.
That sounds lovely. And I mean, again, we are talking about 5 different cultures, one event. How do you manage to put all of that together? It sounds like a big challenge.
It's not a big challenge. We all are in one building. We have been doing this, as you know, for 55 years. It takes a lot of volunteers, members. We work together, we volunteer together, and it just ends up all working out.
Tell us where the pavilion is and the times of the performances.
The pavilion is located at 764 Erin Street in Winnipeg, and show times are 6:45. Second show is 8:15. And our last show is 9:45.
That's Joanne Gaiman. She's the coordinator of the Scandinavian Pavilion at Folklorama. 55 years. That's a long time. It's also speaks to the community staying connected, the cultural community. So really cool. If you want to check them out, as you heard guest host Julie Buckingham there mentioning, where the venue continues for all this week at Folklorama. You can find more information about the festival at folklorama.ca and what pavilions are on this week. And for every person that is cringing right now and going, Christmas? I don't know. There's also someone like Abby.
Yeah, Marcy, guess what? It is 141 days to Christmas, and I'm already counting down.
I was going to say, not that you're keeping track.
No, I've been keeping track since like after Easter.
I know. Well, we know where you're going to have to be heading this week. 6:21 a.m. is the time. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC.
You know the voices that tell the story of our province. Now you can take them anywhere. From the essential start to your day on Information Radio to the conversations that define our lunch hour on Radio Noon and the pulse of the city on Up to Speed, your local connection is always within reach. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Your favorite voices, your province, right in your pocket. Download the CBC News app today, your daily rhythm, live and local.
Well, next on the show, the rules of the international game are changing, and Prime Minister Mark Carney is doubling down now on what he calls a middle power strategy to get through it. It means assigning the country's foreign service a new mission. So now the global network of ambassadors, diplomats, commissioners, and others whose job it is to promote Canada abroad have a new priority, promoting the country's commercial and business interests. To talk about that, Fen Hampson is here, Professor of International Affairs at Carleton University and co-chair of the Expert Group on Canada-U.S. Relations. Good morning.
Good morning.
So first of all, let's look at this middle power strategy. That's his term. What does it mean?
Well, there's a lot of confusion as to exactly what it means, but it starts with the Prime Minister's diagnosis of where we are that he laid out at the World Economic Forum earlier this year, where he said great powers. By that, obviously, he had the United States, China in mind. They're using their economic power as a weapon. And the message is that mid-sized economies have to start doing more business with each other to limit their dependence on the world's two biggest economies. This is not a formal middle power alliance. The Prime Minister has been explicit about that. It's really saying we've got to start using some of the big trade agreements we have, that big trade agreement with the countries of the Indo-Pacific, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, as it's called, as well as the agreement we signed some years ago with the European Union. So use that multilateral machinery, but also to, as his government is doing, strike out and with new trade agreements with countries like India, Indonesia. We just got one with Indonesia. And it's all about the selling of Canada.
So the selling of Canada, not necessarily just the celebrating of Canada. So is that the shift versus the, come visit Canada, here's what we're about, wave the flag, and maintain good relations. This is, the word sell is, how intentional is that when you think about what the Foreign Service is going to be tasked to do now, thinking about our business interests?
Well, if you strip away the rhetoric, there's one economic target that's absolutely critical here, and this is a prime minister who likes to set real targets. He has made a commitment that his government aims to double non-U.S. exports, the volume and value within a decade, and that's going from the roughly 225 billion we sell to the rest of the world. That's not the United States now. And to pump that up to about 450 billion. That's in current dollars. Right now, 3/4 of our exports go to one customer. I think all Canadians know that. It's the United States. And that concentrated export profile is obviously a real vulnerability now. And so this is all about getting Canadian goods and services into those other markets.
How much of a change is this, though, for the Foreign Service? And I mean, are diplomats the right group for this? They would not normally be the group that would be doing this.
Well, we've had a trade commercial service for many, many, many decades. And in some sense, this is, has always been an important part of our diplomacy. But I think you have a very good point there that, a diplomat can open a door, but only a company can walk through it. And, right now, if we're looking at, particularly the backbone of the Canadian economy, our small and medium-sized enterprises, only about 1 in 8 are exporting goods and services out of the country. And those that do export, the U.S. is obviously the key market because of its proximity, familiar language, logistics, a familiar regulation and payment system. No amount of embassy hustle is going to change the fact that shipping goods to Ohio is cheaper and simpler than shipping goods to Jakarta. That's the big challenge.
Will the tactic bring middle power strategy and trade diversification to life, to build on the point that you just said, that if it won't, if it won't make that much of a difference in the partners that we're trying to really make, or if we're really trying to regain Ohio, for example,
Right.
what other pieces of the puzzle are still missing to make this a reality and strengthen our ties with the States, while also, the Prime Minister works on those other markets that are globally, as you mentioned?
Well, we've certainly been trying to do this for a long time. The Harper government's 2013 Global Markets Action Plan made, economic diplomacy kind of the organizing principle of Canadian foreign policy. Under Justin Trudeau, notwithstanding his shift to what he called a feminist foreign policy, a progressive trade policy was certainly a very important part of his government. And by progressive, Trudeau meant that, we're not going to trade with countries that don't live up to strong labor and environmental standards that we have here. I think, when it comes to, the missing pieces of the puzzle, what we're seeing right now is that the same government that is asking its diplomatic missions to move fast, to implement this new economic push, that Global Affairs has been subject to Carney's budget cuts. Planned spending has fallen roughly $2 billion, according to the department's own plans. And so, if on the one hand you're saying we got to get out there and we got to start taking risks, and at the same time you're saying, but you're going to have fewer people in the field and fewer resources to do it, it's a bit of a mixed message.
Fen Hampson, thank you very much for the analysis. Appreciate your time today.
My pleasure.
Fen Hampson is with us live, or has been with us live via Zoom, professor of international affairs over at Carleton University, also co-chair of the expert group on Canada-U.S. relations. If you're a regular listener, you know that we cover international news and national news at the top of the clock on World Report. Right now, though, we're heading into the 6:30 hour, and we will have the Business Digest coming up as we look at some stories making business news across this country. Remember, for markets and other stories anytime, cbc.ca/business, but we do have Phil Dumont with a live report back today. So he'll join us after your CBC News from Winnipeg.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it's 16 degrees. A little bit of deja vu with this forecast, a lot like yesterday. Mix of sun and clouds this morning, and then a good chance of late day showers, risk of a thunderstorm, a breezy high of 28. Tenants in a West Broadway apartment complex could see their rents increase by hundreds of dollars later this year. The owner of 303 Furby Street wants to hike rent by 78%. The company says it needs to recover costs from significant renovations to the common areas. Renter Alana Swayze says her apartment is affordable by today's standards, around $550, but she says a hefty rent hike will hurt her and the other tenants.
It is cheap rent, but at the same time, like the cost of everything, like not everyone can afford to pay over $1,000 a month. Not everyone wants to live with a roommate.
Landlords can apply for rent hikes above the normal cap, but they have to prove to the Residential Tenancies Branch their costs increased enough to justify the higher rent. An infectious diseases specialist says an expansion of Winnipeg's National Microbiology Lab is the right move. The federal government has announced a $10 million contract for design and engineering work on a new medical countermeasures lab. It will be attached to the existing Level 4 facility on Arlington. The expansion will create more lab capacity for scientists to produce test vaccines. Dr. Isaac Bogosh at Toronto General Hospital says it shows Ottawa learned something from the COVID-19 pandemic.
We're in a world of emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. Obviously, we need to be resilient to these in Canada, and anything we do to boost our capacity to better prevent, detect, and respond to these emerging pathogens is a smart step forward.
The new lab won't open until at least 2033. The province is ordering a Southeast Manitoba school board to respect the legal rights of students over the age of 16. In June, the Hanover School Division passed a motion directing staff not to honor the rights granted mature minors. That meant they could not access health care without the knowledge of their parents or guardians. But Education Minister Tracy Schmidt says that would violate Manitoba law as well as the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. She has now issued a directive overturning the board's motion.
I would encourage the Hanover School Board to focus on their mandate, which is to ensure that the students in Hanover School Division have access to all of the educational resources that are available out there, and that they continue to find opportunities to provide healthcare services in their school division.
If the division doesn't comply, Schmidt says she could dissolve the school board and appoint a trustee in its place. Yesterday, we brought you the story of nurses in Steinbach's Bethesda Hospital writing an open letter to the province and to Shared Health. They say their staffing ratios are unsafe and worry about the impact on their patients. Adding to the problem, they say, people from Winnipeg driving to Steinbach's Hospital to avoid long wait times in Winnipeg ERs. They ask for an extra triage nurse to meet standards of care. Well, in a statement late yesterday, a government spokesperson says the province is responding to concerns of frontline nurses by adding a second triage nurse at Bethesda Hospital. A Churchill Lodge owner has launched 2 more legal challenges to the province's decision preventing him from doing polar bear tours. Lawyers for Wally Dowdrich and Lazy Bear Lodge and Expeditions asked the Court of King's Bench to declare Dowdrich and his company have the right to 4 off-road wildlife viewing permits. Lazy Bear previously had 2 such permits, but the province told him last year those permits wouldn't be renewed.
We're looking for a fair and transparent process, and they've done everything but a fair and transparent process. I believe the government is acting in bad faith.
Dowdrich maintains the NDP government has singled him out because he was a longtime Progressive Conservative member who ran for the party leadership in 2025. He has since joined the Keystone Party. A provincial spokesperson says the government doesn't comment on matters before the court. The 2 filings will be heard on August 12th. Members of Winnipeg's Sikh community signed letters asking the Prime Minister to do more for rare disease patients. Stalinjeet Gill collected them during a stop on his road trip from Vancouver to Ottawa. He wants to raise awareness about his son's spastic paraplegia, a rare disorder that can leave sufferers unable to walk. Gill says an $8 million treatment could help his son, but it's not covered by public health care.
We were shocked when we found out there's nothing they can do. And because if a disease is named rare, it doesn't mean you cannot get funding for it. That's the therapy for my son. If it's possible to give a chance to someone to do that therapy, why not give them a chance?
Gill is gathering messages for the federal government in support of more investment on treatment options for rare diseases. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells is live in our news center each and every morning here on Information Radio. You're on CBC. It's time for the regional forecast with Abby Adiyemi.
Yeah, just looking outside today, much like yesterday across the regions, looking at the southern regions, we have sunshine to start before we see those clouds build later in the afternoon, bringing a good chance of showers in most of the regions. And of course, some areas may feel the thunderstorms later in the day. And if you look up north, it stays much cooler with some cloud cover, some rain, and even scattered thunderstorms will be noticed in the northern regions. But here in Winnipeg, we are at 17 at the Forks, 15 at the airport. It's clear there. Expect a mix of sun and clouds today before we see that good chance of showers and possible storms later today. We'll see a high around 28, but the humidity is going to make it feel in the range of the 30s or the 31 later today. The sun will definitely come out strong sometime this afternoon. In the Pembina Valley region, Morden and surrounding area, you're looking at 16 degrees at this time. It is clear out there. A warm day ahead with increasing clouds as you get into the day. There's a good chance of showers and some thunderstorms in the forecast. High of 28. For the Westman region, Brandon, 9 degrees at this time, partly cloudy there. A warm afternoon ahead. There's a slim chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorms for the Westman region later today. We'll see the highs in the range of 30 degrees. Now across the Parkland region, Dauphin at 15, cloudy there. Also the Gimli region, we're looking at 14 degrees there. A few cloud cover. We're going to see a mix of sun and clouds in both regions and a chance of showers and possible thunderstorms in the region. Most of those areas will see highs between 28 and 31. For the North Central region, region, we're looking at flame flown this time, 13 degrees there. Norway House, 13. Cloudy conditions. Expect periods of rain this morning. You see highs around 19 degrees. And then we go far north. Thompson also at 13, seeing light rain shower this time. Lynn Lake is at 13. Gillam at 14. Light rain in the forecast. Tudula Lake is at 11 with cloudy conditions, while Churchill is seeing those shallow fogs at 9 degrees at this time. Expect a cool day with rain in most of the areas up north with highs close to 18 degrees, while Churchill gets to 16 today. So down south, it's still going to stay warm, but we're going to get a few showers and some thunderstorms later, while up north, it's going to remain cooler. Also widespread rain in the forecast for the north. Winnipeg, we're starting nice. It's a nice day. Current temperatures, we are looking at 17 degrees right now. We want to 28 later.
Okay, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
In the traffic situation, Corey.
Very quiet, very midsummer vibes out there.
Yeah.
Haven't heard of any major issues, but if you are walking, you're biking, you're driving, maybe see some new construction, you're wondering what's going on there, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
All right, it's the time of year where the lines are longer at the coffee shops.
Yes.
Some mornings. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
It's time for the business news. Phil DeMont joins us now. Good morning, Phil.
Morning, Marcy.
So let's talk about Mark Carney. The Prime Minister is saying Canada needs to get tougher on trade talks with the U.S. That is, if the two sides can't reach an agreement by August 19th. We've all been talking about CUSMA. What do you make of this?
I don't know, to be honest about it. August 19th is the start date for those 50% tariffs that Donald Trump recently threatened to slap on Canadian exports. So the Prime Minister talking about getting tougher if the bilateral deal isn't reached by that date. Could be a signal that the talks are failing, and he's preparing Canadians for that outcome. Negotiators from both sides meeting in Washington this week to try to hammer out a deal. There are hints that Canada might look at an old idea for its metal industries. This is a quota system for steel and aluminum exports into the U.S. in return for lower tariffs. But the Prime Minister talked about getting an agreement to cover major sectors, so metals, autos, forest products. That was a bit of a surprise to me because it might be indicating he's looking for something solved in the softwood lumber area, which has been a source of bilateral griping for decades. For their part, American officials are pushing for an end to our supply management system, something Ottawa said is off the table. Washington also complaining about various provinces banning American booze from liquor stores up here. Chief negotiator Jameson Greer said the Americans want a shorter-term deal with Mexico and a separate one with Canada by the end of the year, and then to do a longer-term structural deal to be discussed in 2027. Canada appears really reluctant to give up leverage on alcohol and other American irritants without some assurance that tariffs are coming down in sectors, mainly autos, they're thinking about. Two other factors, though, Marcy, I think are playing in here. Canada's GDP in the second quarter on track for about 3.5% growth. Carney might be using our improved economy to strengthen our hand in trade talks, saying basically you can't outweight us because our economy is improving, not going down. But the other one is that deal to open the Gordie Howe Bridge, Windsor to Michigan. It's debatable how much Canada gave away to get the bridge open, but there is a sense that Carney caved in some sense. So the tougher talk now might be a sign that the Prime Minister wants to look tougher to his voters.
Let's go to another story. These days, Canadians and Americans talk about how things are unaffordable on both sides of the border. What economic indicators show that they have actually a legitimate complaint?
Yeah, I'm looking at credit cards here because there is a bit of atmospheric to a lot of the complaining. When I started working decades ago, the inflation rate was 11%. So some of the complaints about 4% inflation, it gets a little kind of, really? But I didn't have to use credit cards to pay for groceries. More Canadians and Americans having to do that. 1/3 of Canadians used credit for essentials like groceries. More than a year ago, according to Equifax Canada. NerdWallet, a personal finance website, noted that 75% of Canadians used their credit card to pay for essential, and 20% of those users couldn't clear their balances. More than 50% of Americans surveyed said they use plastic to buy groceries. To be clear, I couldn't use credit cards to buy groceries back in the 80s. This didn't take them. Stores started taking them in the 90s. But a rising number of people using their credit cards for food, etc., and can't clear their balances, that's a sign that life's getting unaffordable for people. Between 2021 and 2026, food prices in both Canada and the U.S. rose about 30%. The U.S. is the number I found. Real wages, they didn't increase at all. So basically, groceries went up and your wages didn't go up. So yeah, life's a little more unaffordable than it was.
And finally this morning, how did one of the stars of the hit show Heated Rivalry make Canadian Tire plaid cool?
Yeah, talk about unexpected. Hudson Williams, one of the co-stars of Heated Rivalry, the hit Hockey Romance, he was spotted recently walking around Toronto carrying one of those reusable shopping bags from Canadian Tire, the plaid one, not the black one, but the plaid one. So now the company can't keep the bag in stock. None in Toronto, none in Calgary, none in Ottawa. Even Kelowna sold out of them. To be honest, I can't think of a thing less cool than that red and black tartan bag. But it's a sign of how popular Heated Rivalry's become. Most watched series in Crave's history. The December finale had an audience 10 times the size of when it debuted. In the U.S., more than 10 million people tuned in to each episode. So everything that Williams and Connor Story, the co-star, touch turns to gold. Williams was wearing a Team Canada fleece. Now the things go for about $400. It's a nice thing, but it kind of looks like you'd wear it curling. To me, I associate Canadian Tire plaid with the tam worn by, yes, Sandy McTire. He's the fictional character on Canadian Tire Money. So maybe he'll become cool.
I don't know. It's the world of influencers, though. So
I know, isn't it?
Why not a bag? Thanks for this morning, Phil. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Marcy.
That is Phil DeMont with our business news on CBC. Well, still ahead on the show this morning, how much does a wedding cost in Manitoba? We're going to hear about the time, money, and effort it takes to plan the big day. And spoiler alert, so turn down the radio and then turn it back up. $60,000 plus is how much the average Manitoba wedding apparently costs. I couldn't resist sharing that in this moment. So how does that compare to years before? And then also, why does it cost that much? We're going to hear more in a special report. You just might have a wedding to go to this weekend, and you might be thinking about it as well. Earlier on the show, earlier in the week, we had a story on the business report that was all about the cost of wedding for guests. So this is about the cost of your own wedding. Stay tuned after 7. Right now, Prime Minister Mark Carney says he does not have confidence in the FIFA president. Gianni Infantino faced backlash, as you might know, for a plan to sell stakes in the competitions like the World Cup to private investors. The Confederation of North Central American and Caribbean Association of Football rejected the plan. Canada is a member of CONCACAF. Now, this is the Prime Minister's exchange with the reporter about it.
The British Prime Minister Andy Burnham said that FIFA President Gianni Infantino is the wrong person to lead football. He spent a lot of time with Mr. Infantino recently at the World Cup. Do you think he should lead FIFA? And if not, who else would you support? Victor Montagliani, Canadian FIFA Vice President.
Okay. Well, the first thing is that I want to pay tribute. I'm going to answer your question, but I want to take the opportunity to pay tribute to the mayor, pay tribute to the premier, pay tribute to the first responders, all the volunteers who made the World Cup here such a success. It was absolute knockout success in Toronto. And again, the best of Toronto, and hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, and hundreds of millions of people would have witnessed it on TV, a bunch witnessed it in person, and they bring back nothing but great stories about the people in this great city. So that's the first thing. The second thing, look, I've run a few organizations in my time. The idea that proper governance is not to disclose to your closest advisors, your chief operating officer, your fellow board members, something of consequence that you're even considering, let alone proposing, that's fatal, should be fatal, and you lose confidence in that individual. They have their own procedures for making those determinations, but certainly I don't have confidence in Mr. Infantino after this point. Given what transpired and given the nature of what transpired. Look, I'll give you an example. Carlos Cordero is someone I've known for more than 3 decades, very high integrity individual, and he was his advisor and had expertise in all the aspects of what was proposed, and he was not consulted. This is not how you run any business, a small business, let alone something that is a global responsibility like football.
And sorry, my last part of my question,
Victor,
would you support?
He's an exceptional individual. He's a credit to Canada, credit to football. He's done a very good job in his role at CONCACAF. But this, again, I'll defer to governance. I mean, there are those who make these decisions, and they're not prime ministers. But he's someone I know well and have tremendous respect for.
Next question.
And loves the game. Loves the game.
Prime Minister Mark Carney in Toronto yesterday. In the clip, Carney mentions Carlos Cordero, who represented FIFA on the White House task force for the World Cup. Cordero resigned over the Infantino plan. It's 13 minutes now to 7 o'clock. A lot of Winnipeg artists out and about for the summer performing in other provinces, including this one. Winnipeg's neighbor Andy's in Calgary right now, but he'll be back in October for another local show. Here he is with Right By You, by Everyone.
Caught in a speedway, baby, beat to the few. Fruit to a gunfight, honey, fighting for you. 'Cause everyone's talking, 'cause they like to talk. The tea of the town, sweet in the mouth. Everyone's talking with me. Oh, I waste more time on the couch. Oh, I need a little second for me to come out. You don't care about much. Wait another year for the summertime. Wait another year for the sun to come out. Do the right by you and everyone. And that's the way it was. Caught in a trolley problem, freezing till the morning 5. I don't care where we're going. I don't care what we've lost. I gotta tell you something, see it on the morning news. You don't have all the answers, baby. I've got nothing to prove. Oh, I waste more time on the couch. Oh, I need a little second for me to come out.
Neighbor Andy, they are, as I mentioned, in Calgary right now. They have a show coming up on the 28th of August, but they will be back in Winnipeg to play the Burton Cummings Theatre on October 24th. Time right now is 9 minutes to 7 o'clock. It's partly cloudy, 16 degrees. Some showers expected late this afternoon. Traffic moving fine for you on this Thursday, August 6th. Next on the show this week, at least 17 people died in Ukraine's capital, Kiev, after a massive Russian air attack. To talk about what's happening right now, Andrew Rasulis is with us, retired official with the Department of National Defense and a fellow with the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. Good morning.
Good morning.
So people who've been following this know that Russia's ballistic missile attacks are highlighting Ukraine's shortage of interceptors, especially this week. That was one of the things with this attack. How serious is the shortage?
It's a very serious shortage. There is now a gap in the top end of Ukraine's air defense system. They have stuff at the lower end for drones and things, but what they are now not able to do is because of the shortfall in the Patriot interceptor system. That's an American exclusive. The Russians are now able to penetrate through this gap, as they did in the last round of attacks, without a single one of their missiles being shot down, and which allows the Russians now to do very precise targeting of the Ukrainian military and industrial capacity to wage war and to defend against the Russian attacks. So for Ukraine, there is no easy fix. They're in a hard spot on this one.
So this is 24 ballistic missiles in the attack this week. And as you're highlighting there, Ukraine wasn't able to shoot down any of them. The United States made a pledge to help out here. Where are they on this? What have they been saying, and what's going to happen moving forward?
Yeah, so the Americans themselves are running short. They've been fighting a war with Iran, as we all know, and they're burning through their stuff, and the production capacities are not meeting the demand cycle. And the Europeans, who have also given a lot of their Patriots to Ukraine, are basically husbanding what's left for their own defense. So Trump, about a month ago at the NATO summit, told Zelensky that what they could do is give the Ukrainians the license to build the Patriot interceptors inside of Ukraine. Now, at best, that would have taken at least 12 months. So Ukraine would still be short for 12 months. However, about 2 days ago, Trump backtracked that commitment by indicating more or less that the companies who control and own the technical rights for these systems are reluctant to give them away. And so consequently, that even the licensing agreement may not come forward. But in any case, they're short for 12 months for sure.
How might this change the trajectory of the war? What are you watching for as we head into the fall?
Yeah, so we know that this gap exists. Now, the Ukrainians, nevertheless, are also hitting the Russians. And they're doing some significant damage in areas like we can see their Amazon network, the Wilbury. They're hitting their warehouses. That's affecting the average Russian, besides the military component. And basically, the Ukrainian approach is to try to bring the war to the average Russian. And by so doing, they hope to put pressure on the Putin government so that it drops short in its maximalist objectives, which it continues to hold on to, and compromise to a sort of a ceasefire arrangement with Ukraine.
And just to interject here, to do that, Ukraine is using the drone attacks primarily. Is that correct? And do they have enough to continue with that type of an attack on Russia?
Oh, yeah. Yes. The Ukrainians have they have their own internal capacity to produce this, which the Russians are also trying to hit, but also they're getting lots and lots from the West.
What about morale in Ukraine? What does that look like right now when it comes to the soldiers?
The critical mass of Ukrainian views of the soldiers, the people, and the government is they know they cannot achieve their previous objectives, which is defeat Russia strategically, regain the 91 borders. No one believes in that is realistic. They do, however, believe that they can avoid a surrender and to give in to the Russian demands fully by trying to force the Russians to essentially drop short, kind of stop where they are now, and leave Ukraine in a sovereign right to have trading and security relations with the West. That's what they're fighting for right now.
All right. Thanks for the analysis, Andrew. Appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.
Live on Zoom, Andrew Rasulis with us, fellow at the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. World Report's up in a couple minutes here. It is fine in traffic this morning, so your commute should be fine. Call Corey, though, if not, 788-3093, whether you're in the city, one of your cities in Manitoba, or if you're out on the highway traveling. Right now, weather-wise, 16 in Winnipeg, partly cloudy in Brandon, 10, and light rain up in Thompson and 13. All of us could see some rain today, 60% chance this afternoon in Winnipeg, 30% late today in Brandon, and also a risk of a thunderstorm this afternoon for Thompson as that rain continues. In Winnipeg, our high is going to be 28. Brandon is looking for 30 and up in Thompson 17. So warm weather, hot weather, I should say, returns to southern Manitoba. This next half hour, an hour on the program, we're going to be talking about weddings. We're going to hear more about why over $60,000 is now what a lot of Manitoba couples are spending. So stay tuned for a special report. Also, we're going to talk to a local blogger about the historical significance of 3 buildings in downtown Winnipeg that are being sold or will soon be vacated by businesses. This includes the Metropolitan, which was lovingly restored many years ago. So what will happen with it next? And then a continuation of a story we've been on all week about WestJet and the impact of the labor disruption over the weekend. What are our rights in Canada in the event of labor disputes? And after yesterday, hearing one of the people who had his flight and his trip disrupted, should our Bill of Rights actually be strengthened? given what is happening with people right now in the aftermath of the WestJet labor disruption. So stay tuned. We'll have that analysis in the next hour. Right now, Heather Wells is in with other news stories that are developing. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, yesterday we told you the story of nurses in Steinbach's Bethesda Hospital writing an open letter to the province and Shared Health. They say their staffing ratios are unsafe and worry about the impact on patients, asking for an extra triage nurse to meet standards of care. In a statement late yesterday, a government spokesperson says the province is adding a second triage nurse at Bethesda Hospital. A Churchill Lodge owner has launched 2 more legal challenges to the province's decision preventing him from doing polar bear tours. Lawyers for Wally Dowdrich and Lazy Bear Lodge and Expeditions asked the Court of King's Bench to declare Dowdrich and his company have the right to 4 off-road wildlife viewing permits. Dowdrich maintains the NDP government singled him out because he was a long-time Progressive Conservative member. I'll be back with more Manitoba News coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather. It is time for World Report. It's 2 minutes to right now, 7 a.m. And stay with us on 89.3 on CBC.
Today on The Current. I'm Lauren McGinnis. AI deepfakes have become so realistic that by the time they can be identified as fraud, they've often been accepted as fact.
It's a special investment system backed by the government and designed for the average citizen to earn money.
One expert on what we can do to fight this, coming up on The Current. The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Anis Haidari. Dr. Anthony Fauci will face a contempt vote today. He was one of the top U.S. health officials during the COVID-19 pandemic. Fauci refused to answer questions during a tense Senate hearing last week. He was accused of misleading Congress on the origins of the coronavirus. And as the CBC's Steve Futterman reports, today's vote could test Fauci's decision to invoke the Fifth Amendment.
It was a week ago that Anthony Fauci faced verbal attacks by Republicans on the Senate Homeland Security Committee.
It is a total disgrace what you did to this country.
Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno criticized Fauci, accusing him of hiding facts and supporting school closures, mask mandates, and vaccine requirements.
Who the do you think you were for doing that?
Fauci refused to answer all questions, repeatedly invoking his Fifth Amendment rights, even when GOP Senator Josh Hawley asked the simplest of questions.
What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel...
It became largely a show for the TV cameras. Fauci fought back, accusing committee chairman Senator Rand Paul of having a personal vendetta against him.
The sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars.
Today, Fauci will again be the focus as the GOP-led committee is expected to vote on whether he should be held in contempt. Fauci received a presidential pardon from Joe Biden. Rand Paul argues the pardon makes a Fifth Amendment claim moot. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Talks between Israel and Lebanon are expected to resume today. The negotiations coincide with fresh violence breaking out between the two countries. 2 Israeli soldiers are dead as a result. Israel's army radio says 4 others were also wounded in an explosion inside a building in southern Lebanon. Lebanon's health ministry says one person is dead and a dozen are injured following an Israeli airstrike. U.S.-mediated talks continue in Rome. The aim is to facilitate Israel's handover of parts of southern Lebanon to the Lebanese army. These are the 7th round of U.S.-brokered discussions. They are the second to be hosted by Rome in less than a month. Iran says it is close to reaching a deal with Oman over the Strait of Hormuz. The two countries and the U.S. have been negotiating to reopen the critical waterway. Tehran says it has agreed on exact coordinates for new shipping routes. For more on this, we're joined by the CBC's Julia Chapman from London. Julia, what more can you tell us about this deal?
Well, while talks between Iran and the US have faltered, Iranian officials have continued to negotiate with Oman, the country on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz. And this news of progress has come from a spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry. He didn't specify what the coordinates would be, but reports suggest that this would involve ships entering the Persian Gulf through Iranian waters and leaving it through Omani waters. The spokesperson doesn't mention any kind of tolls, which Iran has previously demanded. But he does say this agreement in itself wouldn't guarantee security for ships, and it would depend on third parties not obstructing the process, presumably a reference to the US.
We've also seen reports that the U.S. is running low on its weapons arsenal as this war with Iran stretches out. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, overnight, President Donald Trump has denied these reports. They came earlier this week from CBS News, which reported that the U.S. is running out of certain precision missiles like the ATACMS and precision strike missiles. There have also been previous reports of shortages of defensive missiles as well. But President Trump says the U.S. has massive amounts of munitions and more are being manufactured. He then threatened to hunt down people who have leaked this kind of information to the media, calling these leaks treasonous statements and saying he would seek long-term jail sentences for them. Researchers analysing the U.S. action against Iran have indeed found that missile supplies are dwindling, which potentially leaves the country vulnerable in other arenas. They've suggested that it could take another 3 years for the U.S. to replenish its stocks to pre-war levels.
Okay, thank you for those details, Julia.
You're welcome.
That's the CBC's Julia Chapman joining us from London. A powerful El Nino is developing, and the United Nations is warning that the weather pattern could push tens of millions of people into acute hunger. As the CBC's Talia Sarv reports, the agency is calling for urgent action before it's too late.
Peruvians applaud their president Keiko Fujimori as she climbs into an excavator to mark the start of emergency works this week aimed at mitigating the impact of the upcoming El Nino.
Entonces el reto es muy grande, ¿okay? Y tenemos poco tiempo.
The challenge is a huge one, she says, and we have little time.
We have an event we haven't seen, most of us haven't seen in our lifetimes.
Jean-Martin Bauer is the Director of Food Security Analysis at the World Food Programme. He says the strengthening weather system has authorities on alert. A new UN report reveals 49 million people could be pushed into acute hunger by the event before the end of next year.
This El Nino could have impacts on very vulnerable people by affecting the climate, by causing severe drought, flooding.
Central America and Southern Africa are expected to be hit hardest at a time global food security is already low due to world conflicts and climate shocks.
El Nino usually starts building in the late spring or in the summer, and it peaks usually in the late fall or early winter.
Bill Merrifield is a research scientist at Environment and Climate Change Canada. He says El Ninos happen when water becomes warmer in the Pacific Ocean, raising global air temperatures.
That will also tend to disrupt supply chains and does tend to lead to higher prices.
The UN is boosting efforts in a handful of vulnerable countries to minimise the system's impacts. Canada won't be spared the El Nino's effects with a warmer winter forecast. Talia Sarv, CBC News, Toronto.
In Calgary, a somber vigil honouring the life of a boy who went missing and never made it home. A choir sings outside Calgary City Hall last night for Parker. The 11-year-old boy with autism vanished in July. His body was found last Wednesday inside a vast network of pipes. Katie McClellan is the Calgary police chief. She spoke at the rally.
Over the past few weeks, Parker's name became known across our city, our country, and beyond. People who have never met him looked for him. They shared his photo. They checked their yards and the garages. They followed every update. They hoped alongside his family.
The vigil was a chance for volunteers, police, and the community to grieve. A farm in Hudson, Quebec is out of $20,000 after falling victim to a scam. The farm is in the process of recovering from the loss, but as Chloe Rinaldi reports, the case is revealing gaps in Quebec's business protection laws.
We got 4 fainting goats and 2 dwarf Nigerian goats.
It was a dream come true for Matt Penny and his family to take over the farm in Hudson, Quebec, near where Matt grew up. He says their business plans hit a setback after they fell victim to a $20,000 scam.
It just kind of kills your dream, kills the momentum.
In April, Pengrove Farms was contacted by a catering company looking to buy wholesale meat. The first order was paid for and picked up at the farm. During the next order, the caterer's credit card was declined.
Parts of their payments started to fall through, and that's when we stopped working with them.
A few weeks later, they were notified by Square, the payment processing platform they use for their transactions, that all the payments made by the caterers were fraudulent, and the farm's business account was frozen. In Quebec, these platforms, like Square, are not like banks or insurance companies. The responsibility is on the merchants to refund the platforms that transferred them the money. Frédéric Lissoire is a law professor at the University of Ottawa.
For payment platforms, you have a law called the Money Services Business Act that basically just tells you that you need to be licensed, but it doesn't provide any protection for merchants.
In a statement, Square said it cannot comment on specific cases, but it works with sellers on a case-by-case basis. Police would not comment on the file to CBC News. Penny says he's in talks with Square to repay the amount owed and hoping to speak with local politicians to influence policy change. Chloe Rinaldi, CBC News, Hudson.
Our top story on cbcnews.ca, residents of a town outside Calgary say they're shell-shocked by a large meetup for white supremacists. Details online or on the CBC News app. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Anis Haidari. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. It is August the 6th, and we appreciate you being with us to start your day. I'm Mercy Marcusa. This is CBC's Information Radio on 89.3. Or you might be watching us on YouTube. Thank you for watching. This hour on the show, do you have a wedding coming up this weekend? Maybe you've been to one already this year, or maybe 2 this summer. How much does a wedding cost now in Manitoba? We're going to start this half hour where we hear about the time, money, and effort it takes to plan your big day in our province, so stay tuned. In addition, this hour on the show, we will talk to a local blogger about the historical significance of 3 buildings in downtown Winnipeg that will soon be sold or will be vacated, soon be vacated by businesses. We'll find out about the future and the history of the Met included in that, so stay tuned. And as WestJet customers continue this week to seek compensation for flight disruptions after the strike, we're going to talk to an airline expert about your rights as a passenger and also what is missing in that new passenger bill of rights. So stay tuned. That's coming up. Heather Wells is in with the latest headlines this morning now from Manitoba. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, tenants in a West Broadway apartment complex could see their rents increase by hundreds of dollars later this year. The owner of 303 Furby wants to hike rent 78%. The company says it has to recover costs from significant renovations to common areas, but one renter says their units aren't getting any better, so we'll hear from her. And the province is ordering a Southeast Manitoba school board to respect the legal rights of students over the age of 16. In June, the Hanover School Division passed a motion directing staff not to honor the rights granted to mature minors when it comes to health care and letting their parents and guardians know any moves they make. break, we're going to hear a reaction about this order from the Education Minister coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
All right, Abby Adiyemi has our forecast.
Yeah, we got sunshine outside. We will see the transition to a mix of sun and clouds across the regions with scattered rain showers today. Of course, warm temperatures later in the day, and of course, some thunderstorms will also roll through the regions. Right now in Winnipeg, we're looking at 16 degrees at the Forks, a mix of sun and clouds. We see the clouds will roll in this afternoon, a good chance of afternoon showers and a risk of thunderstorms in the mix. We'll see a highs around 28, and across the southern regions, we're already seeing temperatures close to 16 degrees at this time. Highs, we'll see Morris get to 28, Dauphin would get to 24, and of course, Brandon is going to be getting to 30 today with some gusty winds in the Parkland region. Up north, we will see highs close to, let's just say, topping out around 17, 18s in some areas. But for Winnipeg right now, we are looking at temperatures at 16 degrees.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk.
Very quiet commute overall. Haven't heard of any major issues out there. But if you are walking, biking, driving, you see some, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, summer is in full swing, which also means that wedding bells are ringing. Maybe you're a guest this year. Or maybe you're the person saying I do. Either way, next on the show, you are going to probably notice that it's getting more expensive for a wedding. More expensive to tie the knot. CBC's Sophia Peralta-Barone did some local digging on the subject for us and is in studio for us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Marcy?
I'm well. I love that you're all dressed in white.
Thank you. I thought it was appropriate.
Yeah, for the wedding report. How much does the average Manitoba wedding cost right now?
So there's two main sites that track the cost of weddings in Canada. The Knot 2025 Global Report and Wedding Wire Canada say the average wedding costs between $30,000 and $42,000. But a Manitoban wedding planner says she's seeing even higher numbers. I spoke to Trisha Backwich. She's been in the industry since 1999, and she started her own wedding planning business in 2016. According to her, the average price of weddings that she's planning now is $60,000 to $80,000. She told me why.
I would say the labor and the delivery fees associated with almost everything, with floral deliveries, with rental deliveries, with dance floor setups, with everything. The cost of gas has gone up, the cost of labor has gone up, and that's something people don't often factor into their budgets. They just see a rental cost of $8 a chair. They don't see that additional $4 a chair in labor or mileage or delivery. COVID hit and we kind of went way down, and then people started spending a lot of money differently. And then after COVID, everybody just kind of tried to pick up the pieces of lost revenue, and the cost of everything kind of skyrocketed. Now, if I see a budget for $60,000 come through, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if we're going to be able to afford the flowers. Like, it's just different.
Wow.
I know.
My jaw's on the floor. Those numbers are just so big. So what else did she tell you people spend money on?
She also listed catering, officiant, vendors, photographers, videographers, lighting, transportation, makeup, hair, suits, wedding, dress, trials, decorations, and flowers as additional costs as well. It's important to keep in mind that these costs are going to vary due to the size of your wedding and location.
What are couples then who are planning for a wedding have to say about this?
Well, I also spoke with Tanya Buetti. She got engaged in Italy last year. She's begun to plan, and she's definitely noticing some increased costs.
Starting to also become normalized at how crazy these prices are. Like, for example, flowers, or I'm having a 200-person wedding. My cost for flowers is around $15,000, and the prices are only going up. It's crazy because I was looking at prices. I was looking at my mom's wedding prices, and she has like her whole binder, and everything has not only doubled, it's like quadrupled in price for food, for flowers, photography, anything that your parents paid. You can expect your wedding's going to be at least 4 times the price today.
So financially then, how are couples and families managing? How are they paying for this?
Well, Trisha says couples are hosting socials, which are a very popular way to raise money.
In Manitoba,
yeah. In Manitoba. And presentation also helps cover the cost afterwards, which we'll talk about later. And also families tend to chip in as well. But mainly, it also turns out that many couples are putting a mortgage before marriage. That's according to Royal LePage through the 2026 survey. Real estate agent Tyler Hall told me more about it.
We're seeing people wait a little bit longer to have their wedding as they're prioritizing home ownership. So they're focusing on saving up some funds to use as a down payment. Once they get into that first home, then they're looking at planning their wedding. I would say about 7 or 8 out of 10 are looking more at that first home purchase rather than their wedding.
Trisha also says that majority of the couples she works with already live in the same home.
Now, as you mentioned there, like what is something that guests maybe should know about presentation? Because you brought up presentation.
Yeah, so usually there's that idea you give the couple what it costs to host you, right? So according to Trisha, it now costs $200 to feed and supply drinks for one person. That's including taxes, gratuity, delivery, and catering. Trisha told me more about it.
Usually it's food. A lot of people just think you go to a restaurant and you pay $50 per person, and that's kind of the number that they have in their head, or $60 a person, but you're not realizing it's also drinks all night, it's table wine, it's appetizers, it's late night, it's probably an additional entree fee because you're offering people beef or chicken, and it adds up really quickly, and that's usually kind of not a hidden cost, but something people don't often think of.
Wow, I think a lot of people are going to maybe hear this report this morning. I mean, I haven't been to a wedding in a while, but it used to kind of be $100, maybe $150 per person, depending. But that 200 number is going to add up fast if you're going with a date, or Yeah.
I know. When she said the number, I was shocked.
Yeah.
And now I've got a few weddings I need to go to, so I'm thinking about how I'm going to save up and everything.
Before you go this morning, I guess given everything you've said, why have a wedding?
Well, Marcy, it can be an actually very meaningful moment for many, the family members there, friends. I asked Tanya why this day is so important to her.
I feel like weddings are very important in my culture. Like, I've heard like some people recently say, they're like, oh, what's the point of getting married? Like, a lot of people live together. It's like they're already married. But like, I do think like a wedding and marriage means a lot. Like, it's not just like another day. And I didn't ever want to think of my wedding as just like nothing changes when you get married. Like, I do think it's a big deal.
And just because she mentioned her culture before you go, what's her background?
She's Italian.
Ooh, that can be a big wedding.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for bringing this in.
Thank you so much, Marcy.
Peralta Barone, she's wondering how much you paid for your wedding. We'll give you her email in a moment to weigh in.
I can hear the bells. Well, don't you hear them chime? Can't you feel my heartbeat keeping perfect time? And all because he touched me. He looked at me and stared. Yes, he bumped me. My heart was unprepared when he tapped me and knocked me off my feet. One little touch, now my life's complete. 'Cause when he nudged me, love put me in a fix. Yes, it hit me just like a ton of bricks. Yes, my heart burst. Now I know what life's about. One little touch and love's knocked me out. And I can hear the bells. My head is spinning. I can hear the bells. Something's beginning. Everybody says that a girl who looks like me can't win his love. Well, just wait and see. 'Cause I can hear the bells. Just hear them chiming. I can hear the bells. My temperature's climbing. I can't contain my joy. 'Cause I finally found the boy I've been missing. Listen, I can hear the bells. Round one, he'll ask me on a date. And then round two, I'll primp but won't be late because round 3's when we kiss inside his car. Won't go all the way, but I'll go pretty far. Round 4, he'll ask me for my hand, and then round 5, we'll book the wedding band. So by round 6, Amber, much to your surprise, this heavyweight champion takes the prize. And I can hear the bells, my ears are ringing. I can hear the bells, the bridesmaids are singing. Everybody says that a guy who's such a gem won't look my way while the laughs on them. 'Cause I can hear the bells, my father will smile. I can hear the bells as he walks me down the aisle. My mother starts to cry, but I can't see 'cause Link and I are French kissing. Listen, I can hear the bells. I can hear the bells, my head is reeling. I can hear the bells, I can't stop the pealing. Everybody warns that he won't like what he'll see, but I know that he'll look inside of me. Yeah, I can hear the bells, today's just the start. 'Cause I can hear the bells until death do us part. And even when we die, we'll look down from up above, remembering the night that we two fell in love. We both will shed a tear, and he'll whisper as we're reminiscing. Listen, I can hear the bells. I can hear the bells. I can hear the
You can't go wrong with some hairspray on a Thursday morning. I can hear the bells off of our story from Sophia Peralta Barone about the cost of weddings and the cost of going to weddings in Manitoba. So we would love to hear from you. If you want to share with Sophia, first of all, your story, how much did you pay for your wedding? What's it like attending the wedding? Or maybe how did you save on your wedding? Sophia is SOFIA, Sophia.Peralta Barone, PERALTA, Peralta, Barone, BARON, so spelled like Baron, at cbc.ca. You can also call us this morning. Love to hear from you. If this got your wheels spinning and you're thinking, I have a story, CBC, about how I save money, or I have to tell you how much I spent to go to a wedding, be in a wedding, throw a wedding, 788-3205 is our listener line.
Manitoba is a conversation that never stops. From your first coffee with information radio to the midday pulse of Radio Noon and the drive home with Up to Speed. Don't let your day get in the way of your favorite shows. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Bring your community with you. Download the CBC News app and stay live with us.
Time right now, 7:25 a.m. on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusi with our team at the show. Darren, Abby, and Corey behind the glass. Heather Wells in our news center will have the latest news at 7:30. And right now, Winnipeg, it's 16 degrees and time for morning sports with Paul McGowan. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Marcy.
So why don't we start with tennis? Another tough day for Canada at the Canadian Open.
Yeah, Felix Auger-Aliassime all set to make his debut on home soil in Montreal, but then was forced to withdraw yesterday before the match even started. And Felix, A, was having a great year. B, was staring down a field that was missing several of the sport's top players. So a missed opportunity for him. The good news, though, is that Leylah Fernandez is through. She gets a straight sets win over Renata Zarazua. And she was asked afterward about being the last Canadian at the Canadian Open.
No, that's a lie. I knew that I was the last Canadian standing. My dad specifically said that before I walked on court, and I guess that kind of lit a little fire in me because I've always said that we have a lot of young Canadian tennis players who are doing extremely well, and I want to be able to kind of motivate them to keep going and to keep believing in themselves, and hopefully one day Canada's not only a winter sport country, but it could also be a summer sport country.
Layla will play doubles today with her sister. She'll be back on the court in singles action tomorrow. She'll face number 5 seed Mira Andreeva.
All right, well, let's go to baseball. The Blue Jays earning a series win over Houston.
And in dramatic fashion, too. It was 3-3 in extra innings. And on the very first pitch of the 10th inning, Ernie Clement crushes a ball to left field, a 5-4 final for the Jays. And you would think that an extra innings home run would be nothing but good vibes. But Ernie, after the game, was thinking about the man that he hit the home run off of, and that's Astros reliever Bennett Sousa.
He's like one of my best friends, too. We went to college together. He'll be in my wedding. So I kind of just put my head down and was like, oh, no, he's going to hear about it later. But just good to help the boys out today.
Ernie Clement talking to Sportsnet, clarifying that he will not gloat now. He will just gloat later. The Jays were not originally scheduled to play today, but they're making up that rainout in Chicago from a couple of weeks ago. So one day only in Chicago this afternoon, a 1:20 first pitch.
What is up with men and gloating? I golf with a group of men, and sometimes the way they talk to each other, I'm like, I don't know how to do this, like gloating, trash talk, whatever. And sometimes when I try, my husband's like, come on, get into it. And then when I try, I just sound mean.
It's an art. You've got to practice it.
It's an art. All right. Finally, Paul, it continues to be a busy week in soccer as well. So what's the latest?
Well, let's start with a little bit of good news. Canada is playing at the Under-20 CONCACAF Championship in Mexico, and they earned a 3-1 win in the quarterfinal yesterday against Jamaica. And it means that for the first time in 20 years, Canada has earned a berth at the Under-20 World Cup. But as you might be able to guess, Marcy, the saga of FIFA President Gianni Infantino continues to evolve. And the stories coming out about him now are bordering on cartoonish. For one thing, he allegedly promised to move the upcoming 2030 World Cup final to Morocco if Morocco would back him as president. He has also been, again, allegedly, withholding prize money from Jordan in a bid to earn the support of their football association. UEFA Vice President Laura McAllister says that this anger toward Infantino needs to persist.
If football loses its values, then it loses its heart and soul, and therefore the existential crisis is very real. The game is there for everybody, from grassroots to elite. It doesn't belong to any one of those constituents, and nor should there be any political interference in how we run the game. So when you put all of that together, of course, Lisa and myself would want to speak out against some of these proposals, but there are plenty of other people in FIFA and UEFA who feel just as strongly as us.
We heard earlier this week the suggestion that Infantino could do some damage control and could manage to be reelected as FIFA's president in March. But at least at the moment, it feels like things are trending in the other direction.
Sure does. Those examples are pretty egregious. Thank you very much, Paul, for the report. And we'll talk to you maybe tomorrow. Are you on all week?
Tomorrow. Sounds
Okay.
good. Thanks, Marcy.
Take care. Actually, it's going to be Corey talking to Paul tomorrow because Corey is your Friday host. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us on Information Radio here on CBC this morning on 89.3 FM. Your news is next from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30, 16 degrees. If you liked yesterday, you get to do it all over again today as far as the weather is concerned. We start with a mix of sun and clouds and then a good chance of late afternoon showers, maybe a thunderstorm, a little on the windy side today with a high of 28. The province has ordered a rural school board to scrap a motion that would violate the legal rights of students over the age of 16. The Hanover School Division in June passed a motion directing staff not to honor the rights granted mature minors. That meant they couldn't access health care without knowledge of their parents or guardians. But Education Minister Tracy Schmidt issued a directive overturning the board's motion. She says the province found it would violate Manitoba's Healthcare Directives Act, the Public Health Act, and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
We all want the same things here, and that is for kids to have access to high-quality education, for kids to be healthy, for kids to be safe. And I'm going to continue to work with Hanover School Division to make sure that every single child in Manitoba has that opportunity.
Schmidt hopes the division complies so the province doesn't have to take the drastic step of dissolving the school board and appointing a trustee in its place. Winnipeg tenants are fighting back against a hefty rent increase. Wingspan Properties is asking for a 78% rent hike from tenants at 303 Furby. The company says it needs to recover costs from significant renovations it made to the common areas. Alana Swayze is one of the tenants. She says the renovations people want are inside their units, but those fixes aren't happening.
If my rent is going up 78%, my lifestyle should be 78% better, but we've just been kind of living in a construction zone since they started.
Swayze says the renovations to the hallways and entranceways have been disruptive. Landlords in Manitoba can receive rent increases above the limit if they can prove their costs have risen. Tenants are planning to fight the increase to the residential tenancies branch. An infectious diseases specialist says an expansion of Winnipeg's National Microbiology Lab is the right move. The federal government has announced a $10 million contract for design and engineering work on a new medical countermeasures lab. It will be attached to the existing Level 4 facility on Arlington. The expansion will create more lab capacity for scientists to produce test vaccines. Dr. Isaac Bogosh at Toronto General Hospital says it shows Ottawa learned something from the COVID-19 pandemic.
We're in a world of emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. Obviously, we need to be resilient to these in Canada, and anything we do to boost our capacity to better prevent, detect, and respond to these emerging pathogens is a smart step forward.
The new lab won't open until at least 2033. Well, yesterday we brought you the story of nurses in Steinbach's Bethesda Hospital writing an open letter to the province and Shared Health. They say their staffing ratios in their emergency room are unsafe and worry about impact on their patients and ask for an extra triage nurse to meet standards of care. In a statement late yesterday, a government spokesperson says the province is responding by adding a second triage nurse at Bethesda Hospital. Wally Dowdrich is continuing his legal fight to conduct polar bear tours in Churchill. The owner of Lazy Bear Lodge and Expeditions has filed a pair of notices with the Manitoba Court of King's Bench. They asked the court to declare Dowdrich and his company have the right to 4 off-road wildlife viewing permits. Lazy Bear previously had 2 such permits, but the province told him last year they would not be renewed. The province has allowed 18 remaining permits to stay in the hands of Dowdrich's competitors.
The polar bear population belongs to the people of Manitoba. It doesn't belong to 1 or 2 specific companies.
Dowdrich maintains the NDP government has singled him out because he was a longtime Progressive Conservative member who ran for the party's leadership in 2025. Wildfire destruction in the BC interior keeps rising, with authorities confirming yesterday structures had been lost on about 120 properties outside Clinton. Those fire losses are in addition to at least 230 homes that were razed to the southeast from another massive fire, the Bradley Creek blaze, near Okanagan Lake, west of Vernon. A dozen properties in the village of Metro Vancouver, are now under evacuation alert due to another wildfire burning in Belcarra Regional Park. That's north of Port Moody. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A BC father on a Canadian road trip stopped in Winnipeg to collect signatures for the Prime Minister. Stalinjit Gill wants the federal government to facilitate treatment for rare diseases. His son lives with spastic paraplegia, a condition that can leave him incapable of walking. Gill is traveling to Ottawa, gathering letters from Canadians in support of more investment on medication options.
The community gave us hope when they unite together, come at when we post something on social media to come and help us out, show support. They show up here. So that's why we want to reach in all major cities within Canada to connect to those people, to give them hope.
Gill wants to make conditions like his son's more visible so other families dealing with rare diseases feel less alone. Health Canada estimates 1 in every 12 Canadian lives with a rare disease. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby Adiyemi has a Thursday forecast. This is time for the regions, right?
Well, Marcy, we're looking at warm weather returning to the southern regions as we approach those range of the 30s again, while up north we will notice more like cooler conditions with widespread rain and, of course, cloud cover. For the Red River Valley region, we're sitting around 14 to 16 degrees under mostly sunny conditions, just some clouds. We're heading to a high of 28. Later, the humidity is going to make it feel close to 31 with winds coming from the southwest as we approach our daily high of 28 later today. You might notice late afternoon showers in the city and maybe some thunderstorms will roll by. For the Pembina Valley region, Maurice sits at 16 at this time. Sunny out there. Some clouds will roll in. It's going to push your high to about 28 with a strong southwest winds coming in. Also anticipate late afternoon showers. Over in the Westman region, Brandon, you are at 10. Light cloud cover there. You climb to a warm 30 degrees. Also, we have showers in the forecast and thunderstorms. For the Dauphin region, partly cloudy, 15 at this time. You reach 24. Through the Interlake region, Gimli, we're looking at 15 degrees there. A mix of sun and clouds warming to 28. Late day showers in the forecast. Up in the North Central region, the Flin Flin, we're looking at 13 in that part of the province. You top out at 16 later with steady showers in the forecast. We're talking about 10 to 15 millimeters of rain coming your way. Norway House sits at 13. Thompson, we're looking at 13 degrees there. Also light showers there. 17. Light showers there, reaching 17 later today, while for the Lynn Lake area, 13 degrees, pushing to 17, also a good chance of showers. Gillam is reporting 14, warming up to 18, while in the Tuduli Lake region, we're seeing 11 degrees there, climbing to 16 with some winds coming from the northwest. Up north, the shallow fog still hold things down in the Churchill area, where we're seeing temperatures at 10 degrees right now, topping out at 16 later. But for Winnipeg, we're seeing a mix of morning mix of sun and clouds this morning. We're warming up to 28. We're 16 right now.
All right, Corey, it's quiet in traffic.
Very quiet. Haven't heard of any major issues out there yet. But if you do see some, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
I'm Michelle McDougall, your local reporter for CBC Manitoba in Brandon. You're listening to CBC Radio 1.
Well, when you walk into Giant Tiger or the Keg in Winnipeg's downtown, you may not realize you're stepping into a piece of history, but both those buildings are about to be 100 years old. They're also both about to be vacated by the businesses that have occupied them for years. Along with the transitions, Canada Inns has also recently announced the sale of 3 of its properties, including the Heritage Metropolitan Entertainment Centre, or more commonly known as the Met. Kai Hasselreese is in from Radio Canada, who's a producer over there with their morning show, and he's popped in because he has some very, very personal history around the Met. Good morning.
Hello.
So what's your connection to the Met in downtown Winnipeg?
My connection is that when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, my grandpa, Max Shelton, was the sign painter for most of the movie theaters in Winnipeg. He actually did that for 50 years. And his little sign painting studio was in the Met, right behind the screen, because at the time it was a movie theater.
Yeah.
And so to enter as a kid, I would just go down the alleyway, and there was a door that said Shelton Brothers Signs. I would go in, and there was this dark space that my grandpa worked in, and he sat at his drawing board and he painted signs for all the movie theaters. The signs, like the marquees, the signs saying, because at the time these things weren't electronic, so the signs that said what movies were playing, what the prices were, the popcorn, the other things that were available, and that's what he did. But it was a cool space, but also what was really cool was that he would often sneak me and my sister Carrie behind the screen into the movie theater where we could watch movies while he was at work. Basically, it was kind of like free babysitting at the time in the 80s.
That is so cool. I have visions of Moulin Rouge in my head and your grandfather hunched over painting and,
yes,
the theater around for, I know that in Moulin they're writing, but are any of those pieces of work still around? Did you save any of them? Are they in your family somewhere?
Sadly, my grandpa retired, and in his early 80s or so. He died over 20 years ago at age 88. And sadly, I don't think any of those old signs still exist. Like at the time, people didn't place value on these things. You know, he didn't keep them. When he left his studio and retired, I think he tossed everything. I mean, I have memories of them, but that's about it. And really, you know, I have great memories of the Met because it was a grand, majestic theater at the time. It was fantastic, and it was a great place to see a movie. And it was a time when it's hard to imagine now because there are so few movie theaters left downtown. Really, there's only the Cinematheque. There were literally dozens of movie screens all over downtown Winnipeg.
I remember some of those downtown theaters. The Capitol down here, I think I saw, which was by Giant Tiger, I think. I saw Desperately Seeking Susan, 1986, Madonna.
And I saw Pretty Woman, 1990, because my grandpa would often get me passes to the sneak previews. And so I remember seeing Pee-wee's Big Adventure at the Capitol Theater, which was, it doesn't exist anymore, sadly, but it was on Donald, right between where now there is the Mountain Equipment Co-op and Giant Tiger.
Yeah, that was quite a building as well. Thanks for coming in. What an awesome memory. Maybe someone listening has one of those old marquees. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Ooh, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Did he sign them all? Do you know?
Nope. But I mean, they were all just so colorful, and you know, the lettering that he did was just so fantastic, and he really did great work for many, many years, and it was well known across the city.
Thanks, Kai. We're about to continue talking about the Met, of course.
Okay, thank you very much.
Guy Hassler, he's just popping in this morning. He's the producer of Radio Canada, so the morning show en français that's happening just up the way from us here up the hall at CBC in downtown Winnipeg. So let's continue talking about the Met. With all these changes coming to Winnipeg's historic downtown, Christian Cassidy has been invited on the show this morning. Christian, you might know, is a local history blogger, and he's going to talk more about the significance of these century-old buildings. Hi.
Hi there.
What was it like for you hearing, first of all, Kai talking about his grandpa and painting the signs?
You know, that was great. Those, you know, when I research buildings, I mean, it's the people, right? It's these little stories, the collection of little stories behind the facade. That's really the interesting part about researching buildings. So it's great when you hear stories like that.
Yeah, you can visualize the people in those spaces.
Yeah.
Before we actually hone in on the Met, what do you make of all the changes? I mean, this is a lot of change in Winnipeg's historic buildings downtown.
It is. I don't, you know, when you look back at their history, especially for the two commercial buildings, that's been their history, you know, for a century or more.
Okay.
That they've changed. They've had to react to market changes. They've had long-time tenants. They sit empty for a while. They get subdivided for a while. They become something else. So I think they'll be okay.
The Met. People may not know all of about the Metropolitan. It is a National Historic Site of Canada.
It is,
the Met.
Yes.
What can you share with us about it?
Well, the Met was it originally opened as the Allen Theatre in January 1920, and the reason why it's National Historic significance is it's considered one of the first, if not the first, movie palaces built in Canada. Because at the time when movies were coming in, movie theaters were kind of pretty crappy spaces. They were just really basic spaces, sometimes with apple crates to sit on. And some of the grand old live theaters showed movies to bring in more crowds. But Allen were the first to build, marry the opulence of the old live theaters with a movie-only venue. So the Allen Metropolitan only ever showed movies on its stage. And it became a famous players theater in the 1920s, and famous players. So during the time that Kai's relative worked there, it would have been a famous players theater right up until 1987. And that's when the Portage Place, Famous Players opened its multiplex in Portage Place, and both the Capitol and the Metropolitan lost out. They were relics of the past, and the Capitol got torn down. The Met stayed for about, I think, 26 years, stayed vacant until Leo Ledhowski came along, and I guess that was 2011, and had the vision and the pocketbook to undertake a 2-year restoration of the building, and it reopened, I think it was in 2013. that it reopened.
So people today will know it in that form. It was a multi-million-dollar restoration. I mean, remember, we all talked about it going on and what would it be like, and it was, true to the period and all of the details. Restaurant in there, and then of course various things people would have seen at the Met for shows. Does being a National Historic Site, now that it's going to be something else, who knows? Does it offer that building some protections?
Well, it's odd. Of the three buildings, that's going to be the one that's going to have the most trouble. I mean, the fact it's being marketed with a hotel and an office building probably makes it an easier pill to swallow for whoever buys it. But essentially, you have a century-old theater, and you can't convert those into, throw up a wall or throw some housing in there or make it an office space or something like that, like these other buildings have had to do over time.
Mm-hmm.
You basically have a century-old theater. And the fact that it has historic status means there's even less than that you could probably do with it. And it has competition from Burton Cummings Theater, and right now the Playhouse Theater is undergoing a multi-million. So whoever buys it is going to end up competing with two other similar-sized, similar-aged venues in the downtown for the few events that would need a space like that.
Outside, of course, it's become known for the whiteout parties because you go down the street and see that. And I've often wondered if they could, close that section of street and make it like a, everything spilling onto the street with restaurants and cafes. But that's a vision plan for.
Yeah, I mean, it would need something creative. I mean, the Burton Cummings is doing well because of the partnership with True North.
Yes.
The Playhouse is being renovated because of the partnership with Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra.
So partnership might be
and
something.
This would probably. Yeah, you need somebody with kind of a creative mind to kind of come at it.
So let's talk about the Giant Tiger on Donald. They will be closing their doors in November. A lot of people might be surprised that that's a historic building. So when was it built?
Yeah, so that is 100 years old. It opened in 1926. It was originally called the Herzig Building because it was a New York investor that bought the property and built the building there. And originally it was for the Manitoba Savings Office, which was a provincially run bank. And the bank was sort of in the center of the building. And there were 7 little storefronts kind of around the outside for small stores like tailor
all around
shop.
the corner like
yeah,
that.
tailor shops and pet shops and little places like that. The bank went under during the Depression. It got closed down, but it was the Investors Group headquarters. For a while, it was a Manitoba Liquor Mart. It was a United Army Surplus Store. It was a byway. It's been a bowling alley. It's been a nightclub. It's been a pool hall. So it's a very it's a survivor, right?
Yeah.
It's done what it's had to do, subdivided, opened up, subdivided again, and has just did what it had to do to survive for a century on the edge of downtown.
And as you mentioned, it still obviously has that location, which is valuable, and that corner location. And because it's been a bunch of things, it's probably going to be easier to find a tenant for something.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, you could subdivide it if you had to, and so if somebody would be, I'm sure, able to find a use for that again.
And in our last minute here, our last moments here, the Keg on Gary, they're not just closing; they're moving to a new location on Donald.
Yeah.
But tell us about that building of the Gary Street.
That's
Keg.
the oldest of the 3 buildings, and that was built in 1911, and it was the Hudson's Bay Company's first truck garage.
Really?
The original Hudson's Bay department store was at Main and York.
Mm-hmm.
So for a block around it, there were all sorts of outbuildings, warehouses and
For
the
the
power
stuff.
plant and truck garage to serve the department store. And that, even when the Bay moved, it stayed in the automotive industry, had lots of different tenants. It was car garage and vehicle storage. And in 1975, an upstart restaurant chain called the Keg in Cleaver back then purchased it and converted it from an automotive garage into a restaurant. And it was there for 51 years until just a week ago.
Well, we'll see what happens with all of these buildings in the future. Christian, thank you very much for, as we look to their future, coming in and telling us about their past.
Yeah, thanks, Marcy.
Christian Cassidy, a local history blogger in live. And you got a special treat if you're watching on YouTube. I should have mentioned before, so you could turn it on. You can always go back and have a look online because a lot of those historic photos of those buildings we included during our interview.
You know the voices that tell the story of our province. Now you can take them anywhere. From the essential start to your day on information radio to the conversations that define our lunch hour on Radio Noon. and the pulse of the city on Up to Speed. Your local connection is always within reach. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Your favorite voices, your province, right in your pocket.
9 minutes now to 8 o'clock on CBC. Thanks for joining us. It's 16 degrees now in Winnipeg, and mostly, it's partly cloudy sky is what I'll say downtown in Winnipeg right now. But for the day, we're going to return to a little bit of a hotter day. It's a high of 28 that we're expecting in Winnipeg. Well, next on the show, while the WestJet strike has ended, many customers are still dealing with the fallout from flight disruptions. Winnipegger Reese Fraser was on the show yesterday. He says he and his wife were left stranded in Calgary. They had to find their own way home. They rented a U-Haul. They were hoping to receive compensation for their travel costs. I should be clear, they rented a U-Haul and drove home in it because they couldn't find a car. But they were hoping to get compensation for all this. And also for the flight that they were rebooked on that they ended up never boarding. Here's a bit of what he said.
After this event, I thought, WestJet will do the right thing. They'll reimburse us for the out-of-pocket costs. But after reading some articles online, looking at the CTA rules, it appears that they determine that a strike is outside of the airline's control. Therefore, the airline will not compensate passengers.
That's true, yes. Yep.
Yeah, so from my perspective, a strike, particularly this strike, which has been talked about and discussed and been in negotiations for months and months, is well within the airline's capability to prevent.
John Graddick is Operations and Aviation Management Professor at McGill University, and he's with us to sort through what exactly the protection could look like and does look like, and maybe in the future what it should look like for air passengers. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's get right into what we heard there. So that WestJet passenger talking about the cancellations due to labor disputes, in his view, I mean, right now they're not considered, quote, within the airline's control. He thinks they should be. He says you see these things coming and the airline should be responsible. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not within the airline's control as per the Canadian application of those regulations, but anywhere else in the world, strikes are part of the airline's responsibility, and you can't walk away from expenses that are covered as a result of that rebooking required. So the only thing in Canada that the airlines are basically obliged to do is cancellation takes place within 14 days of the flight, which it was in this case last Friday, that the airline is obligated to provide you with alternative transportation either on its partners or on any other competitive carrier to arrive at their destination within 48 hours of your original plan.
So I want to interject there. You know why? Because a lot of people did it themselves, Mr. Graddick, as you know. So they said, we see this coming. I'm worried. I don't want the stress. I'm just going to book another flight. So if you do that and they didn't book it for you, but you don't board the one they booked for you, do they have to compensate that flight, or is that you?
The only way that you're going to get that flight covered financially by WestJet is if you let WestJet do it. WestJet does the booking for you, and they got you on order on Air Canada, and you got there within 48 hours of the original trip, and you accepted that offer, then you're good, and they pay for your trip. Not any ancillary costs. They don't pay for themselves that cover you in time that flight goes. The only thing the airline is really supposed to be able to cover, committed or is obligated to cover, I should say, is the airfare. Now, if that itinerary they offer you is not acceptable to you for any reason that you feel that doesn't fit your timeline or your location or your schedule, you are then offered a cash refund by WestJet. Only then would you get that cash refund if you refuse to accept WestJet's offer of alternative transport.
Can I ask you about Air Canada's strike? It caused similar flight disruptions last summer, but they did eventually offer compensation for people who made other travel arrangements in the face of cancellations. Why did they do that then?
Goodwill. So, if you remember, there was a lot of noise made in the marketplace through CBC or other media about the plight of Canadians, and I think Air Canada kind of backed off its stance on travel. I think that the ones they did cover were primarily international flights. I don't think it covered too many domestic flights. If you're stuck internationally, you're stuck in Lisbon or Frankfurt or Paris for a week waiting for a return flight, Air Canada would cover your costs of hotels, meals, waiting for your new flight. So international rules are very different, and you get financial compensation over and above if you're a European flying from Europe to Canada.
Do you think there should be changes to the Passengers Bill of Rights to consider a labor dispute then within an airline's control?
Oh, it should be. No, I think that this split between Canadian travel and international travel doesn't make any sense at this point in time. And I understand why it happened. This has been a result of a very effective lobby by the Canadian Airlines into Transport Canada, into basically, keep international and not have it creep into Canadians, because it is going to cost the carrier some money to do this. You had 300,000 passengers that were affected by cancellation by WestJet over the last 5 days, last 6 days. And, WestJet can't find the seats for all these people to get them to their destination within 48 hours. So they're going to blow past the regulations. And so what the passengers do, they get a U-Haul and drive. But that U-Haul expense is your own expense. Basically, not waiting for WestJet to offer you an alternative.
Thanks for walking us through the details this morning, Mr. Graddick. Always appreciate it.
Anytime. Have a great day.
You too. That's John Graddick, Operations and Aviation Management Professor at McGill University, live on Zoom this morning. Let's go to Heather Wells right now with news headlines.
Good morning. Well, the province is ordering a Southeast Manitoba school board to respect the legal rights of students over the age of 16. Back in June, the Hanover School Division passed a motion directing staff not to honor the rights granted mature minors, meaning they couldn't access health care without the knowledge of their parents or guardians. The education minister says that would violate Manitoba law. Wally Dowdrich is continuing his legal fight to conduct polar bear tours in Churchill. The owner of Lazy Bear Lodge and Expeditions has filed a pair of notices with the Manitoba Court of King's Bench after the province took away his permits. Dowdrich says the government's acting in bad faith. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Coming up after 8, stay with us. The U.S. plans to close its consulate in Winnipeg. What's the full impact? What could it mean for American troops that live and work here at the NORAD headquarters? We're going to hear more about that coming up after 8. Stay with us. 16 in Winnipeg. Today's high is 28. Chance of showers late this afternoon. World Report is next. It's 1 minute to 8 now.
Today on Q.
These days, Canada is known for producing internationally recognized R&B talent like The Weeknd, Daniel Caesar, Justin Bieber. But before all of them, there was Glenn Lewis. And don't you forget it, don't you forget. He fought to pave the way for Canadian R&B, and he's here to tell you his story.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Lauren McGinnis. AI deepfakes have become so realistic that by the time they can be identified as fraud, they've often been accepted as fact and become part of the conversation. One expert on what we can do to fight this, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Anis Haidari. The Senate committee voting on whether to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress has started. He was one of the top U.S. health officials during the COVID-19 pandemic. Fauci refused to answer questions during a tense Senate hearing last week. He was accused of misleading Congress on the origins of the coronavirus. And as the CBC's Steve Futterman reports, today's vote could test Fauci's decision to invoke the Fifth Amendment.
It was a week ago that Anthony Fauci faced verbal attacks by Republicans on the Senate Homeland Security Committee.
It is a total disgrace what you did to this country.
Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno criticized Fauci, accusing him of hiding facts and supporting school closures, mask mandates, and vaccine requirements.
Who the do you think you were for doing that?
Fauci refused to answer all questions, repeatedly invoking his Fifth Amendment rights, even when GOP Senator Josh Hawley asked the simplest of questions.
What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel...
It became largely a show for the TV cameras. Fauci fought back, accusing committee chairman Senator Rand Paul of having a personal vendetta against him.
The sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars.
Today, Fauci will again be the focus as the GOP-led committee is expected to vote on whether he should be held in contempt. Fauci received a presidential pardon from Joe Biden. Rand Paul argues the pardon makes a Fifth Amendment claim moot. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Talks between Israel and Lebanon are expected to resume today. The negotiations coincide with fresh violence breaking out between the two countries. Israel says 4 of its soldiers were wounded in an explosion yesterday. It happened inside a building in southern Lebanon. As a result, 2 soldiers are dead. The funeral for one of the soldiers was held in Jerusalem today. Lebanon's health ministry says 1 person is dead and a dozen are injured following Israel's retaliatory airstrike. U.S.-mediated talks continue in Rome. The aim is to facilitate Israel's handover of parts of southern Lebanon to the Lebanese army. Dozens of health workers in the Democratic Republic of the Congo are refusing to work. Workers at the epicenter of the Ebola outbreak say they haven't been paid since it first began in May, and they've abandoned several health facilities. Congolese officials in the past have blamed logistical issues for the payment delays. It all comes as the disease continues to spread rapidly. More than 1,500 people have died, and the number of cases in the country has reached nearly 4,000. Iran says it is close to reaching a deal with Oman over the Strait of Hormuz. The two countries and the U.S. have been negotiating to reopen the critical waterway. Tehran says it has agreed on exact coordinates for new shipping routes. For more on this, we're joined by the CBC's Julia Chapman from London. Julia, what more can you tell us about the deal?
Well, while talks between Iran and the US have faltered, Iranian officials have continued to negotiate with Oman, the country on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz. And this news of progress has come from a spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry. He didn't specify what the coordinates would be, but reports suggest that this would involve ships entering the Persian Gulf through Iranian waters and leaving it through Omani waters. The spokesperson doesn't mention any kind of tolls, which Iran has previously demanded. But he does say this agreement in itself wouldn't guarantee security for ships, and it would depend on third parties not obstructing the process, presumably a reference to the US.
We've also seen reports that the U.S. is running low on its weapons arsenal as this war with Iran stretches out. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, overnight, President Donald Trump has denied these reports. They came earlier this week from CBS News, which reported that the U.S. is running out of certain precision missiles like the ATACMS and precision strike missiles. There have also been previous reports of shortages of defensive missiles as well. But President Trump says the U.S. has massive amounts of munitions and more are being manufactured. He then threatened to hunt down people who have leaked this kind of information to the media, calling these leaks treasonous statements and saying he would seek long-term jail sentences for them. Researchers analyzing the U.S. action against Iran have indeed found that missile supplies are dwindling, which potentially leaves the country vulnerable in other arenas. They've suggested that it could take another 3 years for the U.S. to replenish its stocks to pre-war levels.
Okay, thank you for those details, Julia.
You're welcome.
That's the CBC's Julia Chapman joining us from London. A powerful El Nino is developing, and the United Nations is warning the weather pattern could push tens of millions of people into acute hunger. As the CBC's Talia Sarv reports, the agency is calling for urgent action before it's too late.
Peruvians applaud their president Keiko Fujimori as she climbs into an excavator to mark the start of emergency works this week aimed at mitigating the impact of the upcoming El Niño.
Entonces el reto es muy grande.
The challenge is a huge one, she says, and we have little time.
We have an event we haven't seen, most of us haven't seen in our lifetimes.
Jean-Martin Bauer is the Director of Food Security Analysis at the World Food Programme. He says the strengthening weather system has authorities on alert. A new UN report reveals 49 million people could be pushed into acute hunger by the event before the end of next year. Central America and Southern Africa are expected to be hit hardest at a time global food security is already low due to world conflicts and climate shocks. The UN is boosting efforts in a handful of vulnerable countries to minimise the system's impacts. Canada won't be spared the El Niño's effects with a warmer winter forecast. Talia Saab, CBC News, Toronto.
Human-caused climate change is doubling the likelihood of Canadian wildfires, says a new report out today. It's examining the conditions that contributed to last month's fires in Ontario and the Northwest Territories. As the CBC's Anand Ram tells us, the World Weather Attribution's findings indicate it is not just a Canadian problem.
Seriously, we're encased in flames now.
Caught in a terrifying pincer grip of a wildfire.
Yeah. Oh yeah, look over there.
It's easy to say how unprecedented this feels, but scenes like this, shot by CN rail workers surrounded by flames in northern Ontario last month, add to the precedent of a world where this is happening more and more.
It's a huge pressure on their organization, needing lots of resources.
Jonathan Boucher is a researcher with Natural Resources Canada and a co-author of a new rapid analysis that says human-caused climate change made conditions twice as likely for July's intense fires to burn in Ontario and the Northwest Territories.
They burned area at a really rapid rate, so only within a few days and weeks. Large areas have been burned.
The study also estimated Ontario could see this as often as every 6 years, compared to every 40 in a world without our excess greenhouse gas emissions.
2026 is yet another active year, so 4 in a row.
Mike Flanagan is a fire weather expert at Thompson Rivers University in Kamloops, BC.
As we warm, the atmosphere's ability to suck moisture of dead fuels increases rapidly. And unless we see more rain, our fuels are going to be drier.
And with millions in the path of the wildfire's smoke, experts say it's not a local problem. Friederike Otto is a study co-author with Imperial College London.
If you care about anyone but the super rich, you have to stop burning fossil fuels.
A stark reminder with months left in Canada's fire season. Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
In Calgary, a somber vigil honoring the life of a boy who went missing and never made it home.
A whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew.
A choir sings outside Calgary City Hall last night for Parker. The 11-year-old boy with autism vanished in July. His body was found last Wednesday inside a vast network of pipes. Katie McClellan is the Calgary police chief. She spoke at the rally.
Over the past few weeks, Parker's name became known across our city, our country, and beyond. People who have never met him looked for him. They shared his photo. They checked their yards and the garages. They followed every update. They hoped alongside his family.
The vigil was a chance for volunteers, police, and the community to grieve. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. Our top story on cbcnews.ca, residents of a town outside Calgary say they are shell-shocked by a large meetup for white supremacists at a local community center. I'm Anis Haidari. This is CBC News.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show, or thanks for listening if you've been with us since early this morning. This is Information Radio live on CBC from downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and we do have a slight chance of showers and a windy day ahead. Abby's going to talk about the forecast for us in a moment. This half hour in the show, we have a follow-up to a development from this week. You might have heard that the U.S. consulate in Winnipeg is on the chopping block. A University of Manitoba professor of international relations says that it could have an impact on our defense sector, and we're going to dig more into why in this half hour. Stay with us. Heather Wells has our news headlines.
Morning. Tenants in a West Broadway apartment complex could see their rents skyrocket hundreds of dollars later this year. The owner of 303 Furby Street wants to hike rent by 78%. The company says it needs to recover costs from significant renovations to the common areas, but one renter says the renovations people want are inside their units, but those fixes aren't happening. Canada's only Level 4 microbiology lab has a new leader. A spokesperson for the Public Health Agency of Canada says Celia Lourenco was appointed on July 20th as vice president and head of Winnipeg's National Microbiology Laboratory. She becomes the first woman to lead the facility. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby, how is the weather looking?
Yeah, southern Manitoba, we see temperatures climbing into the upper 20s today. Some areas might even get into the lower 30s, while for the northern part, we're looking at cooler temperatures there with upper teens as the highs. But rain is definitely in the forecast across board today. Winnipeg, we are between 15 and 16 degrees, depending on where you are. Some areas even clocking 17 right now. Scattered clouds we see in the city. Some sunny conditions are breaking through. Expect a high of 28 today with a humidity clocking out around 31. Around the afternoon period, we will notice those cloudy conditions roll in. Then there's a good chance of showers late in the afternoon and some thunderstorms might come with that. Also anticipate gusty southwest winds that will be coming with what we have in the package today. Those cloud cover will definitely stay into the evening period and we might still get more showers tonight, and that's what we'll see across the Pembina Valley region all the way to the Interlake region this morning. Just temperatures close to 18 degrees in most of the areas. Sunny to start, the clouds will roll in, and then we'll see the rain and of course some thunderstorms rolling in, but highs will push close to 30 degrees in the regions. Up north, those foggy conditions cleared in the Churchill area. Now we have a cloud cover there, but Winnipeg right now we're looking at let's just call it 16 for now. A mix of sun and clouds. We get to 28 and afternoon storms in the forecast.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk covers your commute here on the show.
Yes, very quiet commute overall today, but if you do see something going on, if you're walking, biking, driving, you can give me a call. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, the U.S. consulate here in Winnipeg is set to close alongside 4 other smaller international U.S. offices. The move was announced by the U.S. State Department earlier this week. Brian Peeler is an assistant professor of political science over at the University of Manitoba. He spoke with Up to Speed guest host Julie Buckingham yesterday about this.
What's closing here is primarily a listening post for the Americans, a small office whose job it was to understand this part of Canada and then explain it back to the administration in Washington. So honestly, it's a bigger loss for the Americans than it is for us. It helps U.S. firms into the Manitoba market. It advances U.S. policy here. Our own exports, the province's export, run through the Canadian Trade Commissioner Service and the Province Trade Office, and neither of those two things are affected. So basically what Manitoba businesses are losing here, and it's not to downplay this is still important, it's an informal channel. So, when a Manitoba exporter hits a customs classification problem or a border delay or a tariff question, right, there would be someone in the office downtown that they could get a hold of and sort of, be able to talk this through without going through formal channels. And now that sort of thing's going to have to be routed through the embassy in Ottawa, it seems. And that's going to just make things more difficult for everyone.
Now, trade is not the only sector that could feel the impact of this closure. Andrea Chiron is a professor of international relations and director of the Centre for Defence and Security Studies at the University of Manitoba as well. And with us now, good morning.
Good morning.
So, what went through your mind when you first heard that this is set to close in Winnipeg?
Well, my reaction was this was a real shame. And my area of research is the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD. It's the front line of defense for Canada and the US. And the Canadian NORAD regional headquarters is here in Winnipeg, which means we host a significant number of US military personnel and their families. And this is where we're going to feel the effects if the US consulate closes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, the impact on those families and on those people?
Well, having been an expat myself, one of the things that consulates are really vital at doing is helping to navigate the gaps between the status of forces agreement under which U.S. military and their families are allowed to be here in Winnipeg, in Manitoba, but then all of the provincial services to which they need. So navigating kids in schools and how to find a healthcare professional. And if ever they're seriously injured, the consulate can help contact family back in the United States. Or if for some reason an American is detained or in legal trouble here in Manitoba, again, the consulate provides that really important connection and advocacy for Americans in Manitoba and Winnipeg, and also provides connections for Canadians who want to do business or want to pursue school in the United States.
The U.S. has said that closing the consulate is a cost-cutting measure. What other reasons might there be other than that?
Well, I'm a little skeptical of the cost cutting because it is a very, very small consulate, but I think the benefits far outweigh any costs. This also is very particular to the Trump administration. We think of the Department of DOGE that was set up presumably to find all sorts of savings by cutting and slashing services to Americans. And I just don't think those cost savings are borne out.
The U.S. is closing other small offices in places like Grenada, Japan, Indonesia, and Cameroon. What role do small diplomatic outposts like these play in a country's diplomatic strategy, especially when you think of the size and the powerful clout of a country like the United States?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The United States sees diplomacy as a force multiplier. And in all of those cases, they are small consulates or branch office. In the case of Grenada, it's the embassy. They're all allies or partners of the United States, and they're all in very critically strategic positions. You think about Japan and Indonesia with respect to China. So one of the things that consulates do is help get a feel for how locals feel about different issues. They are very good at sensing if there are things like foreign interference. And we have to remember that most countries are not monoliths. Even in Canada, we have very different regional differences. And so having those U.S. representatives here in Winnipeg provides a richer picture for the United States, hopefully then to make more strategic decisions.
People might also know and be wondering whether or not this is political. Premier Wab Kinew has not shied away from criticizing Trump. He's called the U.S. president's policies, quote, dumb, and he hasn't wavered on the U.S. booze ban, of course, as well. So we're the only North American consulate being closed. Could politics be at play here as well?
Well, I mean, I never want to get in the head of President Trump. There could be all sorts of reasons why this decision was made. But certainly he is somebody who can make quite emotional decisions. So that may be the case. I think what's really important, though, is for Canadian leaders to remember that their duty is to protect Canadians, to foreign Canadian interests, and that sometimes that means we absolutely have to remain the adults in the room, and that especially when you're dealing with somebody who is quite mercurial, is to not sink to that level, and to remember that the Canadian-U.S. relationship is absolutely vital to both countries, not only from a trade perspective, but from a defense and security perspective, and as part of wider allyships in things like NORAD and NATO.
You actually attended one of the consulate events, I understand, in June, a Gold Eyes game. U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra was there. What was the tone of that? What was it like?
Well, for the most part, it was very celebratory. Of course, this is a really special Independence Day for the United States because it's also the 250th anniversary of the country. And so it was a very celebratory atmosphere. It's, lovely to have that quintessential baseball game in the background. It's against a Canadian team and an American team. And it's a chance for leaders and academics and Americans to get together on a more social occasion. There were naturally speeches. For the most part, they were very celebratory, and that's as it should be at these events.
Can that kind of diplomacy lead to business, which is interesting in the backdrop of what Carney has said now, because he's now asking diplomats in the States to make sure it leads to business deals. So is this also potentially an area of loss for us here in connection, but also in possible trade relations?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, at this event, you had not only provincial leaders, city leaders, you had federal government representatives, you had industry representatives, you had academics. I mean, where else do you get that sort of mix? And in a really lovely, relaxed atmosphere where you could not only do networking, but get to meet people you otherwise wouldn't get a chance to meet. You always see lots of business cards being traded back and forth. And that's what U.S. consulates and Canadian consulates do really well. It's that connecting function for important people so that then they can go ahead and make those deals and make those future agreements.
Andrea, thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate you weighing in.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So for that full interview about the trade implications and those business connections, you can look to Brian Peeler's interview with Julie Buckingham yesterday. And our interview with Andrea Sharon will be posted later this morning on our CBC Listen app. Sharon is a professor of international relations and director of the Centre for Defence and Security Studies over at the University of Manitoba.
You know the voices that tell the story of our province. Now you can take them anywhere. From the essential start to your day on information radio to the conversations that define our lunch hour on Radio Noon and the pulse of the city on Up to Speed, your local connection is always within reach. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Your favorite voices, your province, right in your pocket. Download the CBC News app today, your daily rhythm, live and local.
Well, I love a good duet, and why not one that includes a Winnipeg artist? Winnipeg's Field Guide has teamed up with Toronto singer-songwriter Georgia Harmer for this one. This is Party of One. 8:24 the time. We're just getting the music cued here. In the meantime, I'll give you a little bit of weather for your Thursday. Oh, we got it now, Abby. Good times. I can still do some weather. 16, mostly cloudy. Today's high 28 with Human X 31. Here's Field Guide in Georgia Harmer.
When we go out and we get to drinking, what a relief. Changing your thinking, having a laugh, having another, looking around. Do y'all know each other? You got nothing to say. You like it that way. Coming to my own conclusions on the way back to the house. I just noticed when the night's over and you barely open your mouth. When you wake up alone in your apartment, is calling you. That's really okay. You like it that way. I was coming to my own conclusions on the way back to the house. I just noticed when the night's over and you barely open your mouth. I was coming to my own conclusions on the way back to the house. I just noticed when the night's over and you barely open your mouth.
Winnipeg's Field Guide and Georgia Harmer with Party of One. Field Guide's next show, by the way, in Winnipeg is happening on September 12th at Alloway Hall. Time right now is 8:27 a.m. and let's take a second to talk about Radio Noon at 12:15 today. The provincial call-in begins, and they're asking about travel today. We sure have been doing a whole bunch of questions about WestJet, the one-day strike last long weekend, how it impacted people. We've had interviews this morning about where we go from here as travelers. However, we also are going to be hearing more about what you should do to protect yourself before you go. We have a Passengers Protection Bill of Rights here in this country, but it doesn't cover things that the airline deems out of its control. So there's some question about whether or not that should be added into the Bill of Rights so more things are covered. But in the meantime, what about insurance? How does that work? And when should you actually be considering that more for trips, especially in the last few years where we've had so many airline strikes? It's a handful, I should say, of airline strikes. So the guest is going to be talking about travel insurance questions, answering travel insurance questions. So if you have them, make sure you're joining the noon call-in. It's province-wide. It's right here on 89.3 on CBC. Guest host Julie Buckingham is going to be your host today, and it starts at 12:15.
How do you listen to your favorite Manitoba shows when you're on the move? Get your daily dose of information radio, Radio Noon, and Up to Speed, live and on demand. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. It's the easiest way to keep our province at your fingertips. Download the CBC News app today.
So I want to take a moment to thank the people that work to put the show together and also who work on the show live in the morning early with us. So those that had items in the show today from our unit, associate producers Emily Enns, as well as Sofia Peralta Barone and Jenica Sewell. So thanks everybody for your work. In addition, I want to thank the news department, James Turner, Cameron McLean, Mike Arsenault, and Heather Wells, who we're about to hear from in our news department at 8:30. Our senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba is Leif Larson. The show's producer in our current affairs unit, that would be your morning show, Radio Noon, as well as Up to Speed, is Nellie Gonzalez. And also thanks to our live crew, of course, in Studio 15, Abby Adiemi, Corey Funk, and Darren Marash. And so that rounds out everyone who works on morning. Thanks for being here and listening. Remember, tomorrow's Friday, so you're going to get a Corey Funk Friday. Corey is hosting tomorrow, as he does each and every Friday here on Information Radio, so you can tune into the show tomorrow for that. Well, we have had certainly an excellent day in traffic this morning. We haven't had any calls about closures, construction problems, lineups. So we might be deeply into those August vibes now. But you can still call Corey if you have a problem. 788-3093, and we'll pass it on after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. It is 16 degrees. We start the day with sunshine, and then just like yesterday, we're going to see clouds move in and out and perhaps bring with them showers late today. A good chance of showers, risk of a thunderstorm, and a high of 28. Winnipeg tenants are fighting back against a hefty rent increase. Wingspan Properties is asking for a 78% rent hike from tenants at 303 Furby Street. The company says it needs to recover costs from significant renovations it's made to the common areas. Alana Swayze is one of the tenants, and she says the renovations people want are inside their units, but those fixes, she says, aren't happening.
If my rent is going up 78%, my lifestyle should be 78% better, but we've just been kind of living in a construction zone since they started.
Swayze says the renovations to the hallways and entranceways have been disruptive. Landlords in Manitoba can receive rent increases above the limit if they can prove their costs have risen. The tenants are planning to fight the increase to the residential tenancies branch. The province has ordered a rural school board to scrap a motion that would violate the legal rights of students over the age of 16. The Hanover School Division in June passed a motion directing staff not to honor the rights granted mature minors. That meant they couldn't access health care without the knowledge of their parents or guardians. But Education Minister Tracy Schmidt issued a directive overturning that motion. She says the province found it would violate Manitoba's Health Care Directives Act, the Public Health Act, and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
We all want the same things here, and that is for kids to have access to high-quality education, for kids to be healthy, for kids to be safe, and I'm going to continue to work with Hanover School Division to make sure that every single child in Manitoba has that opportunity.
Schmidt hopes the division complies so the province doesn't have to take the drastic step of dissolving its board and appointing a trustee in its place. A Churchill Lodge owner has launched 2 more legal challenges to the province's decision preventing him from doing polar bear tours. Lawyers for Wally Dowdrich and Lazy Bear Lodge and Expeditions asked the Court of King's Bench to declare Dowdrich and his company have the right to 4 off-road wildlife viewing permits. Lazy Bear previously had 2 such permits, but the province told him last year they wouldn't be renewed.
We're looking for a fair and transparent process, and they've done everything but a fair and transparent process. I believe the government is acting in bad faith.
Dowdrich maintains the NDP government has singled him out because he was a longtime Progressive Conservative member who ran for the party's leadership in 2025. He has since joined the Keystone Party. The 2 filings will be heard on August 12th. Yesterday, we brought you the story of nurses in Steinbach's Bethesda Hospital writing an open letter to the province and Shared Health. They say their staffing ratios in their emergency room are unsafe and worry about the impact on their patients, asking for an extra triage nurse to meet standards of care. Well, late yesterday, in a statement, a government spokesperson says the province is responding by adding a second triage nurse at Bethesda Hospital. Canada's only Level 4 microbiology lab has a new leader. A spokesperson for the Public Health Agency of Canada says Celia Lorenko was appointed July 20th as Vice President and head of Winnipeg's National Microbiology Lab. She becomes the first woman to lead that facility. Lorenko has a PhD in pharmacology and has worked several executive and management positions at Health Canada. Steve Gurchio is the lab's Chief Operating Officer.
The new vice president, we're very excited that she's here, and we're looking forward to working for her and looking forward to her leading this facility into the next stage.
The previous vice president, Jason Kindrachuk, stepped down from the role in June to return to full-time research. The Arlington Street facility is undergoing a $267 million expansion, and the federal government has announced $10 million contract for design and engineering work on a new medical countermeasures lab right next to the Arlington lab. A BC father on a Canadian road trip stopped in Winnipeg to collect signatures for the Prime Minister. Starlinjeet Gill wants the federal government to facilitate treatment for rare diseases. His son lives with spastic paraplegia, a condition that can leave him incapable of walking. Gill is traveling to Ottawa, gathering letters from Canadians in support of more investment on medical options.
The community gave us hope when they unite together, come at when we post something on social media to come and help us out, show support. They show up here. So that's why we want to reach in all major cities within Canada to connect to those people, to give them hope.
Gill wants to make conditions like his son's more visible, so other families dealing with rare diseases feel less alone. Health Canada estimates around 1 in every 12 Canadians lives with a rare disease. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Heather Wells.
Thank you.
Well, Corey Funk, we haven't had a morning like this in a while.
Got totally skunked out there. Totally.
He totally did. Nothing going on the commute.
I'm going to embrace that before the fall weather comes our way. Yeah, quiet commute overall, but thanks for nothing. Don't even get to thank anyone who called.
Abby, what about you?
Well, most of the regions in the south will definitely see temperatures climbing into the 20s, and even some areas will see 30s later in the day. While up north, we have cooler temperatures. At the south, we'll see highs in the range of 30s, while up north, we'll see highs close to 26 in those areas. Winnipeg, right now, we are looking at 15. We get to 28 today with a humidity at 31.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully you won't get skunked today. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everyone. And thanks for starting your day with Information Radio on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. On behalf of our team, thanks for listening. And remember, the show tomorrow up bright and early at 6, hosted by Corey on here on 89.3 FM. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.